Hey, babe. Hey, babe.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
For some reason, I really like talking to you on Zoom. I don't. It's my brain just feels like all topsy turvy when we talk on Zoom.
I'm okay with that.
Like you're supposed to talk on Zoom with people who are far away, not people who you live with.
No, it's all good. Well, no one here yet, so that's not a very good start, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, there is a designated Ignite class, so like those folks, should be coming. But yeah.
Well, there's someone. Jessica Grew Raffle.
Hi, Jessica.
How are you doing today, Jessica?
Oh, I'm okay.
Merely okay?
Yeah, got like a migraine thing. It's been for a day
I'm
or
sorry
two.
to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm surviving.
Hmm.
How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing well.
Good.
Anything new in your world?
Not extremely new, no. Nothing exciting anyway. Besides my
Sorry to
dad's
hear.
book.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to hear things didn't work out with that. Oh, people are starting to come in.
Hi, Justine. I'm glad you're here.
Hello, everyone. Sarah, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great, Nick. Thank you. How are you?
Doing great.
Good. I saw your invitation on Facebook and thought I would check in today. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think you'll be glad you came. And please do turn on your screen if you can. Always helps me to not have a sea of black to present to. If you've got kids or dogs running around, I don't mind at all. I'll just give everyone one more minute and we'll get started. Does anyone have any questions about negotiation they're walking into this with, or a negotiation situation they're trying to navigate? a
Is
tough
it better to-
negotiation. Mhm.
Is it better to ask full price, or like if you're going in to an offer, is it better to go full price in and then go with an inspector and then nitpick everything down, or start with the lowball offer and
Yeah,
then
great question.
negotiate back and forth? I'm just
Yeah, I love this question. So what you're describing of planning to kind of nitpick on the inspection, that's what would be called retrading in the commercial world, and it's a practice that I really frown upon. So I'm always playing the infinite game. I'm not trying to win this negotiation. I'm trying to create value in every negotiation I ever have. And when you really beat someone up over inspection, it kind of creates a bad taste in the listing agent's mouth and the seller's mouth, and they're not going to be potentially super excited about doing business with you in the future. And it's a very common strategy to leverage, because when you get a property under contract and you're in the inspection contingency period, the buyer has all of the power. The seller does not have the privilege of terminating the purchase agreement, even if they may want to a couple rounds of negotiation into the inspection period. The buyer has the exclusive unilateral right to terminate the purchase agreement. And then the buyer has a tremendous amount of leverage over the seller just by virtue of getting under contract. So as soon as the MLS is updated and reflects that it's under inspection, if the property were to fall out of inspection, all of a sudden there's an implication that there's something wrong with the house, and the seller is probably going to have to take a haircut on sales price, or it may take longer to sell, just because you were very aggressively negotiating on the inspection contingency period, not necessarily because there is anything wrong with the house. And a shrewd listing agent will know that and probably be pretty upset with you that you're doing it, but ultimately, advise the seller that we probably do need to come down on price $5,000 or even $10,000, because we'll probably have to do that anyway if the property goes back on the market after being under the inspection contingency.
I've just been hearing both ways here lately, and I'm like, I've never been the nitpicky person, so that's why I'm like, okay, is that something that you would do? I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm just kind of
Yeah.
trying to get the lay of the land of what everybody's thoughts are on that, because
Yeah.
I've never been that way, and just
It's a common strategy. In a larger market where there's fewer collisions between the same agents, maybe you can get away with that for a period of time. And you can certainly get away with it on a few transactions, but very quickly you will develop a reputation. So I know some people who are very aggressive about their inspection contingency, agents who represent clients who are very aggressive about their inspection contingency, and I discourage my clients from accepting their offers. I mean, if it's the only offer, we'll take it, but I'm going to say, okay, we have this offer from this agent for $200,000, and we have this offer from this agent for $190,000, but I really like working with this agent. And this agent over here, I've done transactions with them before where they really beat us up under the inspection contingency period, and we're probably going to end up at 190 anyway. So let's just go with the 190 offer. So
if everybody is smart as you to know that, though. A lot, some people don't know that agent, or it's all,
that's right.
It's all about who you.
That's right. So in every aspect of how I negotiate, I am playing the infinite game. I don't care about creating this win-lose interaction on our current deal. I care about creating a reputation where people who do business with me and do business with my team and the people that I associate with really want to do business with those people again. So here's an example. One of my negotiating practices, if we've had kind of a tough negotiation, the last step in that negotiation is always to bring more value to the deal, to give something away that there's absolutely no need to. So we were recently under contract for a property. Well, we're getting under contract. There was a kind of an extensive round of negotiations. The listing agent, was working really hard to kind of make this deal happen. And they eventually, kind of forfeited some of their commission to close that gap and make the deal work, which I really appreciated the gesture, but I didn't think it was right. So we got under contract. And then after we were under contract, I went back and said, I'm just gonna give you thousands of dollars just to say thank you, because I don't think you should need to take a haircut on your commission just to make this deal work. Why would I do that? Why would I just willingly give away something in a negotiation like that?
So you can work with them again.
So they want to work with me again. That's exactly right. And sometimes that's kind of an abstract thing. In this case, it was not abstract in the slightest, because a week later, they came to me and said, Nick, we've got this property that's going to be hitting the market soon. This seems like the kind of property that one of your clients would really like. Would you like to take a look at it before it hits the market coming soon? So absolutely. We got under contract and that property went listed pended. And one of my clients got an opportunity to buy that property before it ever hit the market, because I gave something away at the end of that negotiation. The last thing your counterparty is going to remember is kind of that last step of the negotiation. And it's often the most brutal phase of the negotiation, where everyone feels like they're kind of giving everything up and kind of retreat into a scarcity mentality. And I think that is the time you need to give things away, and you need to lead with abundance. And if you do that and you do it skillfully, abundance is always going to come back to you. In this case, I mean, it came back to us tenfold. The value we got from that agent bringing me that off-market deal, it exceeds the value of whatever commission I gave up, tenfold. So that is the epitome of my negotiation strategy. We're here to create value. We're not here to take everything that we possibly can. So in this talk today, I'm going to equip you with some really, really powerful tools. And it is your decision whether or not you use these tools for good or for evil. And I'm telling you that in the short run, your integrity is going to be a disadvantage to you. But in the long run, your integrity will be your greatest strategic advantage. So you can go take in a few transactions here in the short run and win a few deals, or you can play the infinite game and build an amazing reputation as someone that everybody wants to do deals with. And eventually abundance will flow to you in measures that you cannot imagine. That is how it works. That's how human beings work. That's how society works. And that's how negotiation works. I think there's very few people out there who have that perspective on negotiation. A lot of people fear negotiation and think of negotiation as this really scary thing where I have to protect myself and I have to protect my client and I have to go after my counterparty and make sure that I don't get taken. And when you set the stage, when you put an abundance energy into the deal, it's going to be a little disorienting at first to your counterparties. But very quickly, they will figure out that this is a person they love doing business with. And they're going to come back to you over and over and over and over again. And that's what we really want here. We do not want to win one deal. We want to do deals for the rest of our lives. That's the infinite game right there. All right, so love that start there with that question, Jessica. Let's dive into our presentation here. So today we are talking about win-win negotiation. And hopefully I notice when other people join, I'll move this over here and make sure I've got chat pulled up. Feel free to pipe in at any point with chat, and then just feel free to jump in and talk over me if you want. This is an interactive presentation, and I honestly don't 100% know how this is going to go, because this has historically been a very interpersonal kind of presentation. I don't know why, but I can't pull up the chat. That's kind of strange. There we go. Reagan said, hey, y'all, mute your mics. That's always a good pro tip. So yeah, let's dive in. So this is my vanity slide, why you might want to listen to some of the things that I have to say about negotiation. I am a somewhat experienced negotiator. So for example, at this time, I'm under contract to purchase a $7.5 million commercial property. The original asking price on that property was $9 million. So my negotiation skills, or whatever you want to call it, have profited me $1.5 million just on this one particular transaction that we have under contract right now. So I hope that if you pay close attention today and take close notes, you will accumulate a set of skills or get some ideas that you can rehearse and practice and sharpen that will eventually net you 7 figures. We're going to do a short exercise later in this class where we talk about just how powerful and profitable it is to be a skillful negotiator, and it's going to blow your mind just how critical this skill set is to your success as a real estate agent, as a real estate investor, as a parent, as a lover, as a friend, as a member of society, as a driver on the road, your ability to successfully negotiate is going to a great extent to determine your success, your happiness, and your fulfillment in every aspect of life. I hope that doesn't seem overly grandiose. Does anyone think that, does anyone want to call BS on that? Again, this is an interactive presentation. All right, so we all agree this is a 7-figure skill set that we're about to learn today. So shoot, I'm just worried I can't do it. Everybody can do it. Negotiation is something that's I think very intimidating to a lot of people. It seems really scary. We see movies in Hollywood about hostage negotiators or poker players or whatever, and we think that this is a really intimidating skill set. Working with a negotiating counterparty is a very intimidating thing. I hope that when you walk away from this talk, you'll have dozens of immediate tools that you can leverage to drastically increase not just your outcomes in any negotiation, but your confidence, because your confidence is going to determine your outcomes. Does that make sense? This is a little bit of a chicken and egg thing, and it's all about practice. A lot of people don't realize that they're negotiating all the time, and they tend to forfeit all their power in negotiation because they just don't want to do it, or they think it's the nice thing to do. When you fail to negotiate, when you drop the ball, you fail to bring value to your negotiating counterparty. You let them down. And I hope that I can change the way you think about negotiation just a little bit. I'm going to shout out to one of my sources here, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Write this down, go buy this on Audible and listen to this. I have listened to this book a dozen times. This is a life-changing book. And a lot of the material in this presentation comes straight out of this book. This is from a former FBI hostage negotiator who kind of shares some of his techniques on negotiation. And these are really, really simple ideas that anyone can practice. And I can't recommend enough that you check this book out. I'm going to be moving kind of fast here. Usually this class is an all-day class. I think we broke it into a 3 and a 4-hour session. In the spring, we're gonna try and do it in 3 hours here. Another call out here. So I'm going to equip you with some really powerful tools here. And not only do you have the option of using them for good or evil to play the finite game or the infinite game, but you're going to have the power to really sabotage yourself. You cannot influence people while you are judging them. And I'm going to give you some tools that will allow you to make very incisive assessments about someone. And that's going to give you the opportunity to judge. And I'm going to tell you right now, stop, because you cannot influence people while you're judging. Negotiation is the apex of influence. It is building rapport with someone to meet of the minds and ultimately to change their behavior or to change the outcomes that you two share together. And you forfeit all of your influence when you judge someone. Sarah, let's say you and I are in a negotiation, right? And in the first couple of minutes, you kind of tip your hand because we're building rapport, because we have an intimate relationship. And I immediately think to myself, Sarah is clearly a weak person. She's not very good at negotiation. She's not a very fiery person. I couldn't think of anything more opposite to say about Sarah, by the way. And I kind of sit back smugly and think, I've got him. I know exactly what to say. I know exactly what to do. I can take everything from this person. What impact does that have? What impact does that have when I sit in judgment of someone?
It just limits your ultimate outcome.
That's exactly right. It limits what I can do. It limits the value I can create. As soon as I stop asking why and get out of curiosity, as soon as I sit in judgment, I limit my power. I limit my power. What would be a more productive thing for me to say than to, or do or think than to sit in judgment and say, oh, here's a weak person. I can run the table with them. What would be a more productive thing I could do?
I think it would be more productive to ask more questions and get to know her a little bit better and just ask more open-ended questions so that you could really get to the truth of what makes her tick and what's important in the deal. And
that's exactly right. That you nailed it, Sarah. Let's say you're having a bad day. Let's say you just got some bad health news or a member of your family did. And you're not feeling very strong in this moment, that's for sure. And I sit in judgment and I assume that I know your whole story. And I stop getting to know you and I stop building rapport. I'm going to come back tomorrow with a lot of assumptions in my head, but tomorrow is going to be a better day for you. And you are going to ambush me with your fire because I sat in judgment. And that's when you're going to take everything from me, because I already demonstrated in my judgment my unwillingness to create value and to seek first to understand. And you will be righteous in your fire. Never, ever, ever judge people, not unless you want to limit your power and limit the way you can create value and limit the way you can serve. Let's talk about another book very quickly here. This is a fantastic book. Go Google or search on YouTube, Simon Sinek Infinite Game. There's a 90-minute talk that is free on YouTube where he kind of hits all the highlights from his book. But another great book to go get on Audible. So there's two kinds of games in the human experience. There's finite games and there are infinite games. Finite games you're very familiar with. Let's say baseball or football. There is a finite amount of time. There is a score or a way of figuring out who won and who lost. The ultimate goal, of course, is to win the game and not be the person who loses the game. There are winners and there are losers. And unfortunately, we've been told our whole lives that the world is full of these finite games. Most finite games are human constructs, by the way. The world is instead full of infinite games. An infinite game has no time limit. There are no winners and no losers. And the goal is not to win. The goal is to stay in the game. The goal is to keep playing the game forever. And at its apex, when you are a consummate player of the infinite game, the goal is to continue the game, make sure that the game persists. Can anyone think of an example of an infinite game?
What we do in real estate is an infinite game.
Having children, that's an excellent call out. Absolutely. I hope that as a parent, I am never trying to beat my children, literally or figuratively. I hope that I'm never trying to create winners and losers. I know a lot of parents who do, a lot of parents who think that if they don't berate their children into submission, if they have disobedient children, that they are a failure as a parent, that they are a loser. But truly the goal of parenting is to never stop being their parent. I hope that these toddler years, I have a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and a newborn. I hope that these are a brief rough patch in my relationship with my children. And if my goal in my interactions every day with my children are to never stop being their parent, to have an amazing relationship with them, I'm going to enjoy the majority of my life as their adult friend. As well, maybe not friend. That's not the best choice of words, because you're definitely not your child's friend when they're young, and you're not exactly a friend when they're old. But if you play the finite game and you try to beat your children, I promise you, you will not get the opportunity to play the infinite game. You'll be taken out of the game in a hurry. Those children will not want to have a relationship with you when they're an adult, or have a strained relationship at best. And anytime you slip back into a scarcity mindset and try to play the finite game, you deny yourself the opportunity to play the infinite game. Jessica, your example is absolutely spot on. I can try to play the finite game in this transaction. I can try and take everything I possibly can, but I promise you, if I do that, I'm not going to be doing deals for very long, or I'm going to have a hard time doing good deals. This big deal that I'm working on, this multi-million-dollar deal that I'm working on, the only reason I got a seat at the table is because I have played the infinite game up until this date. People don't invite you into a relationship and invite you into multi-million-dollar deals when you play the finite game in the 6-figure deals. Does that make sense? I hope so. So real briefly, what is negotiation? I think a lot of people have misconceptions about what negotiation even is. So we all know it's a meeting of the minds. Hopefully when we get done, we're on the same page. And this doesn't always happen. And some people think that the goal of negotiation is to pull a fast one on their counterparty. I was in a deal earlier this year, and there were several rounds of counteroffers. And in one of the rounds of counteroffers, the other agent changed the closing date, but not the occupancy date. And I didn't catch it in the flurry of paperwork. So Transaction closed, funds were remitted. We went over there and there's still a moving truck there and a garbage dumpster and there's no keys. And I'm like, whoa, what just happened? And they said, well, didn't you check the contract? Possession doesn't change for another couple of weeks. They pulled a fast one on me. I don't know how deliberately or aggressively they did that. I can't say. I always just kind of assume the best of people and I lead with an abundance mindset. But suffice it to say, I had some explaining to do and a problem to solve in that particular situation. So negotiation does not necessarily always mean a meeting of the minds. I suppose our minds met once the deal was done. I think that if you are failing to be transparent past the point of fault in all of your negotiations, you're probably doing something wrong. You can disarm people with your transparency. You can put all your cards on the table and say, here's what I want. We're told that seek and ye shall find, ask and ye shall receive. I think that too often in our negotiations, we are guarded. We forget that negotiation is a meeting of the minds. And we say, if I tell them what I want, well, then they're going to deny that to me. We live in scarcity. I had the opportunity to do this year-long negotiation course with Margaret Kelleher, the state speaker of the House, Harvard School negotiation trained professional, one of the negotiation experts in the world. And we would do these exercises in negotiation, you know, like a mock salary negotiation and a mock real estate development negotiation. And one of the exercises was built to painfully illustrate this point. And the only way you could win the negotiation was to put all your cards on the table, because it turned out that both people wanted the exact same thing. They had very different stories. They were coming from very different places. And yet, in terms of the terms of the negotiation, every single term was perfectly aligned. And if you did any negotiating at all, if you were like, okay, we can do this, but not this, you would fail the negotiation. That's exactly what I did. I didn't put all my cards on the table. And so that was one of the exercises that I lost. I certainly did not come out at the head of the class in that one, because I held back. I put some of my cards on the table, but not all of them. Well, let's see, my client would like to move in as soon as possible and would like to close as soon as possible. And my client would like the most amount of money they can possibly net on the transaction. Oh, they want the most money that they can net. Would they be willing to increase the purchase price but have a seller concession? Well, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, my client can actually offer a little bit more if we can, increase the purchase price and do a seller concession, because my client doesn't care as much about the net price. My client cares about minimizing their down payment amount. And all of a sudden we found these alignment of interest just because we asked, just because we said so. And all too often, our interests align perfectly with our counterparty, and we just never know because we never say, because we assume that the thing that we want is some kind of thing we have to go get. Abundance is something that flows to you. If you practice the tools and techniques we're talking about today, I promise you, you will not have to work to get anything in a negotiation for the rest of your life. Just be the person your creator made you to be and create value and serve and love and give, and you will get. I absolutely promise you. So I describe negotiation personally as the art of careful, deliberate, considerate, sincere listening and a tireless search for value. Now, I said this would be easy, but I didn't say it wouldn't be work. And when you never stop trying to find value, trying to create value, trying to serve other human beings, I promise you that everything that you want will flow to you in abundance that you cannot imagine. But most people, when they walk away from the negotiation table, they didn't necessarily get what they want. And they accept that compromise or that half measure, or, we got some of the things that we want. I guess that's as good as it gets, right? We did pretty good in this negotiation. I promise you that if you walk away from the negotiation and you did not get everything that you wanted, you left early. Now, here's a little bit of an inception thing. Negotiation itself is an infinite game, is it not? In any negotiation, most people perceive there to be a finite timeline and a winner and a loser. But if you say, you know what, we're going to go 20 rounds in this particular negotiation, we are never going to stop listening and seeking value in this negotiation, do you think you might find more value for yourself, for your client, for the person that you're negotiating with? People give up on negotiation far too quickly. exhaust of it because they are scared of it and they find it stressful, ask yourself this question. If you follow the path of your stress, it will lead you to your greatest fear. If you follow the path of your stress, it will lead you to your greatest fear. And most people find negotiation to be one of the most stressful things they ever do. I love negotiation. I am like a pig in poop when I'm at the negotiation table, when I'm negotiating with someone. It's energizing to me because I see it as an opportunity to discover value. What is it that you're afraid of? Do you think that you'll be rejected, that you won't get what you want, that the deal might fall through? These are potentially righteously scary things. But isn't it scarier to not negotiate at all? Negotiation, isn't it just an opportunity to avoid these things that you fear? To ignore the monster under your bed is the scariest thing you can do. To check under your bed and see there's no monster, that's when the fear goes away. So step up, lead, listen, build rapport, and create value for yourself and the person you're negotiating with, and all the stress, all the fear of negotiation will evaporate. So does anyone want to call BS on any of this stuff? I'm using some grandiose language here. Does anyone think that this is just a line I'm feeding you here? What if your negotiation partner is a really bad person? Great question. Great question. How many bad people are there in the world? How many sincerely evil people have you met in your lifetime? People who want to hurt others, who take pleasure in hurting others. How many of those people have you met in your lifetime? Have you met a lot of those people? Are those people a majority of the people in society? They're a majority of the people on the news, and they're a majority of the people on the television, and they're potentially a majority of the people on your Facebook feed. But I promise you, these are rare people indeed in real life. Now, there's a lot of people who have fear that you are the bad person. And when you lead with value, when you demonstrate your sincere desire to love and to give and to serve, I promise you this Mexican standoff where you're afraid the other person's going to shoot, it disappears. It's possible that your partner is a bad person. I have met, I don't know, 2 or 3 of them out of all of the agents in Rochester, Minnesota, for example. Everyone else kind of, I don't know, hunches over and crawls into the negotiation and hopes that I'm not that bad person. But when they see who I am and see who I assume that they are, all that pretension drops away. And this usually takes like 60 seconds on the phone. 60 seconds on the phone is all it takes to expose the beautiful people that we all are and the fiction that this bad person is. Be transparent here. It's possible and likely that our goals run counter to one another. And you want a higher sales price and I want a lower sales price. But just put that on the table. Hey, I'd like to get this house for as little as I can. What can we do to make that happen? Oh, if we could close in 7 days, they'd be willing to come down $10,000 on purchase price because they've got a big move coming up and they just want to get it off the table. And that's more important than sales price. Well, sales price is the most important thing to me. Look at that. We've created value. It's so rare for a negotiation to be a one-dimensional thing. It's so very rare. And when you just try some of these tools, I think you'll be shocked at how good the people in the world are. Excellent question. Excellent question. Good negotiation is always win-win, never win-lose. I don't believe in win-lose negotiation. I think win-lose negotiation is a fallacy and something for people who are unenlightened or lazy. And I hope when you get done with our talk today, you're going to agree. So let's talk about the 80-20 principle. We had talked about how I have profited $1.5 million in the last couple of months from my negotiation skills. Let's talk about just how much money is on the line here. Who wants to do an exercise with me? Who has a calculator handy? I need someone to speak up.
I've got one.
All right. So I promise you that the majority of your compensation last year was earned with 20% of your time. You may say that's BS. I'm a W-2 employee. I make a fixed hourly wage. But your boss, do they care about how many hours you work, or do they care about that one time you saved a day? And your compensation, is your compensation directly associated with your performance at your job, or whether or not your supervisor likes you? Y'all are going to have to unmute here and jump in.
I think it's by how much you work and how well you do it. I don't think it's compensation.
So you think that your compensation is tied to whether or not your boss likes you, or your outcomes?
No, your outcomes based on how much productivity you've done. And it's quality over quantity.
Certainly it's quality over quantity, but I'll tell you that every study on the topic has revealed that your happiness and your outcomes in terms of your promotion schedule and your compensation are directly associated with whether or not your boss likes you, and unfortunately have nothing to do with your outcomes. If you are a screw up, but a screw up that your boss likes, you're going to get that promotion. And unfortunately, we've probably seen some of that iniquity in our W-2 careers. And if you're a 1099 employee or a self-employed individual, this is going to be a little more intuitive to you, I think, that the majority of your compensation comes about from a minority of your time. But I'm telling you, this applies to everyone in the whole world. The majority of your compensation comes from a minority of your time. It follows an 80-20 distribution. But something that people don't realize is that there's an 80-20 of the 80-20. So let's say that 80% of your compensation comes from 20% of your time. So I believe, Reagan, you have a calculator handy there. Can you tell me what is 80% of 80%? 0.8 times 0.8.
0.64.
0.64. And what's 0.2 times 0.2?
0.04.
So 64% of your compensation came from 4% of your time last year. And let's try this one more time. What's 0.64 times 0.8?
0.512.
And what is 0.04 times 0.2?
0.008.
So I'm telling you right now that more than half of your compensation last year came about as a result of 1% of your time. 1% of your time. Is there anyone here who thinks that this is malarkey, that I'm making this up? Because it seems pretty outlandish, I know.
That seems just insane. How
Seems a little implausible. I can promise you it's true.
Okay.
And I can promise you that that entire time, or almost all of it, was while you were negotiating. That's the level of compensation we're talking about here. That's how valuable this skill set is here. So who here would like to do a role play with me? Reagan, are you up for it, or do you just want to run the calculator?
Yeah, okay, I'm up.
All right. So let's say that we're doing a job interview, right? And we all know that a job interview is negotiation. Well, I guess a lot of people don't realize that a job interview is negotiation. And most people think of it of negotiation as a win-lose or a finite game kind of interaction. So your boss wants to play you as little as possible, and you want to get paid as much as possible. What happens when you approach a salary negotiation from an abundance mindset, from a win-win mindset, from an infinite game mindset? So, Reagan, we're really happy with your interview. You've done an amazing job on this interview. Can't tell you how excited we are about you starting. Usually we start people at $35,000 per year, but because you're just such a rock star, we're gonna start you at $40,000 per year. Aren't you so very excited about that?
Yes. That
Awesome.
sounds like wow.
Awesome.
Because I just won't negotiate.
Okay. Well, they're very good then. We're paying you $40,000. We win and you lose, right?
Right.
What could you do to potentially increase that offer?
I could come back and say, I was really impressed with your business. I think that
Thank you.
you guys do a lot of things I'm really interested in. I do have some other commitments in my schedule. So I just, with where I want to be, that's a little bit tough for me.
A little bit tough for you.
Yeah, I was thinking about, a number, it was a little bit higher than that for me.
A little bit higher than that?
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you tell me a bit more about, what you think we could work on together to help add value?
Really? As an interviewer, no one has ever asked me that question before. No one has ever asked me how we can add more value. People just want more money for no good reason at all. I'm perplexed and intrigued by this conversation. Well, we really need you to be working on our assembly line, but are there any other skills that you have that could maybe bring more to the table?
Well, actually, I've been thinking about this other thing related to your business. And I don't see a lot of people doing this, and I've always kind of wondered why. That was one of the reasons that I wanted to interview with you, was to talk more about what you're doing. And, have you thought about making it purple?
Really? No. People rarely even ask us about our business at all. They're just kind of here to collect a paycheck and want the biggest paycheck they can get for doing whatever it is that we tell them to do. No one's ever brought ideas to an interview like this. Tell you what. Let me talk to my boss, because I need to get like a supervisor approval to really go beyond 40,000. That's the most we ever offer anyone. But let's meet again in a couple of days. I'd love to hear the offer or the proposal that you have for this purple idea. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Thanks.
How
Pleasure.
hard was this?
It wasn't that hard. I felt like an idiot, but it wasn't that hard.
You feel like an idiot. That's just because this is new. Once
Yeah.
you get good at this, you're going to make them feel like an idiot. How long did this take?
Not very long. I had
Let's
the idea
say,
for hours of torture, but it was quite brief.
that's right. Let's say that as an outcome of this, you end up with a whole new role in the organization. You end up starting at 50,000 per year. You increase your salary by 20%, and you spend, 1,000 hours this year working the job, and you spend 1 minute increasing your compensation for the whole year by 20%.
Crap.
Do you think it's very far-fetched that you make more than half of your compensation for the entire year in 1% of your time?
No, that makes sense.
There's value all around you. You just have to discover it. And that's what negotiation is, a tireless search for value. And the conversation is never more complicated than this. Hey, I'd like more money. What can we do to create more value here? What can I do to better serve? Here's some ideas that I have. What do you need? People will be disarmed by your transparency, and they will want to help you and they will want to serve you because it's so clear that you want to help them and serve them. This is not rocket science. It is truly this simple. So that's the 80-20 rule, and that's why negotiation is such an important thing. Next, let's talk about the third alternative. So I hope that the third alternative is a life-changing principle. It's a negotiation tactic, if you want to call it that, but it's so much more than that. Just like how the infinite game can be perceived as a negotiation tactic, or staying out of judgment can be perceived as a negotiation tactic. Do we all agree that we would probably be better human beings if we just stay out of judgment of our fellow human beings at all times? Do we all agree that this is the equivalent of picking our nose for our soul, and it's going to get us more compensation, more success, more happiness, and more fulfillment? So the third alternative is another one of these powerful tools. Would anyone else like to do a role play with me? I hope that you can see from the example with Reagan that it's not too scary. Would anyone like to do a little role play to change their life? I promise you that you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Cindy, Melanie? This is going to be a long meeting otherwise. I'm just going to sip my coffee over here, see who wants to step up.
Let's go, Nick. I'm good.
Tom, you want to dive in?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think you've ever seen this before, so I'm looking forward to it here. Tom, can you turn your camera on?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. All right, there.
Let's rock and roll. So we're going to talk about the Stephen Covey principle of the third alternative. In every negotiation, there's a perception, I think, that it's a one-dimensional negotiation. There's just the price, and the price goes up or the price goes down, and that's all there is to it. And some people realize it's a multi-dimensional thing where, maybe we can do a seller concession and that will change the purchase price and everybody wins. Or we can just ignore that whole concept altogether and be constantly in search of the third alternative. So in this role play, we're going to say that we are office mates. We're sharing an office. And every day I come in and I open the window to the office just a little bit. And every day you come in and you close the window. And I start coming in early to make sure I get there first and I can open the window. And then you walk in and you reach right past me and you close the window. And this goes on day after day after day until we hate each other. We can't stand to be in each other. We can't stand to be in the cafeteria together, even though there's no window there, just because we bug each other so much with our contrary desires. And because I'm a Minnesotan, what I could do is I could go report this to my boss, right? And I could say, I want to have the window open and Tom wants to have the window closed and there's no rules here. And we're one of us, it's him or me, we're going to have to come up with a solution here or we're both going to have to quit or one of us is going to have to quit. And your boss, who just took a great negotiation class, a great management class, and learned that compromise is the essence of great leadership, says, aha, I've got it. We're going to leave the window half open. So that way everyone is happy all the time, right? No, when we compromise, everyone's unhappy all the time. And when you and I keep up this little dispute and we keep opening and closing the window, the boss notices and says, you came to me and I gave you the solution. Now you're not fulfilling it. Now you're both fired. Or we're going to have maintenance come in and put in some kind of locking mechanism there so you no longer have control. I can tell you this, when you go to a higher power, you forfeit your authority. You give away all your power. When you lack the resolve, the resourcefulness, the care, consideration, love to solve your own problem and to engage in negotiation, you give away all your power. Don't do that. Don't go talk to CMAR or your broker if you haven't tried to sort things out with the agent first. Does anyone here think that this is thinks that this is just a pure work of fiction, that something like this never happens in real life? I can promise you that everyone in this room has probably been involved in one of these situations before, right? What's an alternative to this problem? How can we engage in negotiation? So, Tom, since I'm such a weak person, I don't know how to negotiate, I don't know about win-win negotiation, it's incumbent upon you to lead this relationship and to serve and to create a win-win negotiation. So how are you going to do that?
So this is after the fact that we're already irritated.
No. So let's say we haven't brought it to our boss yet.
Okay.
But you see that train coming, and
Okay.
here is your opportunity to lead. What are you going to do? We're sitting in our office together, and I go to open the window, and you have had it. What are you going to do to lead our relationship?
Hey Nick, do you really need the window open? Was there some reason that you have it open? Is there a smell maybe that you're smelling? Is there a reason why we're opening the window every day?
Tom, I don't think you're a smelly guy. I'm sorry. I'd hate to think that you just assumed that I thought you were a smelly guy. I just like having the window open. I really don't want to talk about it.
Okay, that's totally understandable. Would we be able to maybe have it open from a certain time to a certain time. I really don't feel comfortable listening to all the noises outside while I'm working. Would we be able to kind of separate a time where you have it open and then it stays closed? Or would it be more valuable if maybe you were closer to the window and I was further away from the window?
Wow, I've never thought about some of those solutions before. I didn't realize that the noise bothered you. Well, now I feel bad. I got to be honest, though, I really just don't want to talk about it.
Okay, and that's totally your prerogative. I'm just really kind of having a hard time working with you being with the window open. I'm very sensitive to noise. So can we come to an agreement?
Tom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was bothering you this much, and I like being a nice person, and I feel like I haven't been a nice person to you, and I don't know why. And I didn't realize it was bothering you. I mean, I knew it bothered you because you always close the window. And Tom, I hate this place. I hate this place. I can't believe I work here. I never thought to be trapped in a cubicle my whole life, and here I am. And the one thing that gets me out of this place is that window. How sad and pathetic is that? And I hate that I need that, and then I hate that I hate you for closing the window. And I'm so sorry, Tom. I'm so sorry. This isn't professional for me to talk like my problems are not your problems. What just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. I'm sorry, Tom.
No, I totally respect your feelings, and if that's how you feel with the window open, I totally misconceive that. And I feel that maybe if you don't want to be here, maybe you should try to explore other alternatives, or try to maybe change your state of mind. Maybe it's not that you hate this place, you just hate being in a small space.
Wow, Tom, I never thought about that. You respect my feelings. My father never respected my feelings my whole life, and I feel like it's just left me trapped in my own head sometimes. Not even my wife has ever told me she respects my feelings before. You have no clue how validating that is to me, how much that means to me. And you're right. I don't hate this place. I just hate this tiny little office. So it's the noise that bothers you when the window is open?
Yeah, I'm a little sensitive to the outside noises. Every time a bird chirps, I'm an outdoor person. I want to look, and I don't get as much work done. And that's the only thing is I'm very susceptible being outdoors. I'm an outdoor person. So
okay, well, your desk is right next to the window, and mine is kind of further away from the window. Maybe we can like switch places or something like that, and maybe I can have the window open just a crack or something, and that'll be enough for me. And then the noise wouldn't bother you because you're a little further away. Would that be okay if you weren't next to the window? I want to be next to the window so bad. I just assumed that you would hate it if I asked you to not be next to the window. But if you don't like the noise, then maybe that would be better for you.
absolutely, I'm totally game to do that.
Oh my God, you have no idea how much I appreciate this, Tom. Let's switch our desks around right now. I owe you. I'm going to owe you for the rest of my life, Tom. You have no clue how much this means to me.
No, let me know if there's anything else valuable I can do. If maybe you need it open, I'll get a pair of headphones or something. That way I can listen.
You would do that? Tell you what, I'll buy you a top of the line, get you some Beats by Dr. Dre headphones. Would that be valuable to you? I was ready to walk away from the negotiation table, but you kept on going. You found more value. Could I get you some sort of home theater set up at your desk? Would that do something amazing for you?
I think that's a little excessive. This is still a work area, but I'm totally open to trying the different areas before we go crazy and try to buy headsets.
I'm sorry, I'm just so overwhelmed here that I'm getting carried away with myself. You're right. Let's start moving our desks around, and we'll see how it goes from there. Thank you so much, Tom. I feel so loved and served today.
Anytime, and if there's anything else valuable I can do for you, just let me know. I want to make it a happy place for you to be.
Thank you. So who has some observations about this? Does this seem like a melodrama? Does it seem like a contrived conflict and solution? What happened in this negotiation? Empathy. Absolutely. Tom validated my feelings. We as human beings, all we ever want is to be validated, to feel heard and understood. it actually is relatively trivial whether or not we get the thing that we want. What matters is that other people understand what we want and understand who we are. There's no such thing as invalid feelings. And for Tom to take that basic step and acknowledge my feelings, that's more than most people ever get in their day-to-day life, as sad as that is. What's something else that you saw happening? This is a climax of this talk today. If you can't walk away from this role play with some ahas that change your life and change the way you approach every negotiation in your life, I think you need to dig a little deeper.
One thing I take away from it, this is Jenny, is
Hi,
that
Jenny.
It's best to address a situation than to sit in your own pity party and or wallow in it. And best communication is done forthright and straightforward, and most likely you will find a resolution.
That's exactly right. And confidence in that is going to get you everything at the negotiation table. If you are a unconfident negotiator and say, I went to this talk and I heard that there's like value that we could find, I think, but I'm not sure, you're not going to find value. You need to lead the negotiation. You need to lead the relationship. You need to lead it with confidence and know that when you never stop serving another human being, when you never give up, you always find value. People will follow that to the ends of the earth. That is electric. That is magnetic. And it's real. It's not fiction. Very good. Some other comments here. I might be better at this than I think and tearing myself down for some other reason that is important to dig out. I couldn't agree more. I think that a lot of people just assume that they don't have competence in negotiation. And unfortunately, this is something that afflicts people who are dominant feminine energy more than people who are dominant masculine energy. Masculine energy has the foible of being overconfident, and feminine energy tends to have the foible of being underconfident. And as I just said, that confidence to lead the negotiation is everything. And so people who are dominant feminine energy, they tend to undersell themselves or sell themselves short in the negotiation. And it's a real shame because feminine energy is what creates powerful negotiation. So to be laser focused on solving a particular outcome, which is what masculine energy tends to do, we're gonna hammer out this price. That does not create amazing value. Feminine energy that leads with empathy, that wants to serve and to give, that's the energy that creates amazing value in negotiation, that creates third alternatives. Explore with empathy, seek solutions together. Why is it that I didn't seek a solution in this negotiation? Why is it that I had to wait for Tom to solve my problems?
You wanted somebody to understand you. You wanted somebody to kind of be on your side, but not so on your side that they understand fully to where you're emotionally available, but enough to where it's just enough to be like, okay, he's trying.
I thought I was a little bit crazy, right? The way I kept opening this window. I knew I was like kind of in the wrong here. And that sapped my confidence to solve the problem. It's a negative feedback loop that people get trapped in all the time when they're, trying to negotiate, with their intimate partner or with their children or with a coworker. We feel like the thing that we want is crazy or inappropriate or wrong, or that they wouldn't understand.
Another
What was that, Jenny?
Another point is that sometimes you need to be patient and wait for the idea to come from them, because it's better received, even though you're kind of directing them in a direction. They're more apt to accept it if it came from themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At its apex, negotiation is a process of helping another person find the way. When you're trying to push, when you're trying to sell, you are failing in negotiation. When you are leading with empathy, when people feel heard and understood, they are going to open up. It's going to be a waterfall of emotion and problem solving and positive energy. And until you get there, if they're kind of standoffish and, you know, they're hearing what you have to say, but they're not bought in, they don't believe that you are really here to serve them in curiosity and not in judgment, they're not going to want to buy in. You're going to have to sell them, and it's not going to stick. Old school sales, you know, if you did sales training back in the 90s, it would be all about a yes script and getting people to agree with you. Modern sales abandons that. Modern sales training, if you took a cutting edge sales training course today, it would say that you need to build rapport and you need to create a trust-based relationship between you and the person you're trying to influence. And then and only then is the path going to make itself clear. And if you have to lead them down that path, you're probably doing something wrong. It's a path, it's wayfinding, it's assisting in discovery. Whatever it is that you're trying to sell, whatever kind of influence it is that you're trying to create, it needs to come from them, as counterintuitive as that seems. And this may seem like some kind of Jedi mind trick or jujitsu move, but it's not. This is how human psychology works. When you sincerely believe that someone else loves you and cares about you and listens to you and wants to serve you, you reciprocate. You do. That's just how the human brain works. And there's a few people out there who their mirror neurons are broken or something like that, but they are rare birds indeed. And I have encountered very few people in my entire life that I have not been able to serve because that reciprocation just isn't there. Asking questions and giving empathy also creates closeness and intimacy that makes you a friend. That places you in a less oppositional role in the negotiation. That's exactly right. At some point, there's going to be a turning point when you encounter the black swan, when you go from sitting on opposite sides of the table to sitting on the same side of the table, and you start solving this problem together. Let me ask you this. Is it an advantage that you are the one who created this rapport? Is it an advantage that you are leading the relationship when it comes time to discover the solution?
Absolutely, because you can, surprisingly enough, it goes back to card tricks. It's you are waiting, listening, and directing them through your actions, and it's best to take the lead and help them find what your solution is.
Absolutely. Once the boat gets moving, you're the one that's steering it. You've got the rudder, and there's a good chance it's going to end up in a good place. But you're not the sails. You're not the person propelling the ship. That's them. Does that make sense? You're not gonna pull that ship along all on your own. That's their job, but you can certainly make sure it ends up in a place that's mutually advantageous, and it's probably going to be more advantageous for you than it is for them because you are the person who is leading that relationship. Let me ask you this. Did I just immediately open up as soon as Tom made an overture?
No,
Why not?
you were afraid he would judge you.
That's right. That's exactly right. How many times did Tom have to make it painfully clear that he loves me and is in curiosity, not in judgment? And he immediately said, I totally understand. I don't want to pry. I don't want to push. I just want to serve you. How many times did Tom have to do that?
Is that just one?
4 times. That's exactly right. Tom didn't say, hey, let's solve this problem. And I said, let's do it. Let's rearrange the desks. Tom said, I want to solve this problem. And I said, no, I'm embarrassed. Tom said, I want to solve this problem. I said, no, I don't like talking about my feelings. Tom said, I want to solve this problem. And I said, no, I'm afraid that I'm going to be judged. Those aren't the exact words I said, but those are the feelings that were expressed in my nonverbal communication. This is a tiny bit more impactful in person than on Zoom, since only 7% of your communication is verbal, 93% is your nonverbal communication. But Tom had to try over and over and over and over again and make it clear that he respects my feelings and that he is not in judgment. He just wants to understand why I want to have the window open and how he can serve me. You usually have to go 3 layers deep. And a lot of times people will say something kind of shallow like, it's too hot in here. No, you would just adjust the thermostat if it was too hot in here. Or they might say, yeah, I think you are smelly. You know, they might take your fodder explanation, say, oh gosh, I'm really sorry about that. I can put on some deodorant. No, I don't actually think you're smelly. people are going to resist you loving them because they are so unaccustomed to it. And if that's not a sad state of affairs, I don't know what is. When I'm talking on the phone with a listing agent, here's how it typically goes. I'll say, hey, I took a look at your listing. So I represent investors, and investors have to make a profit. I bet you could get a really awesome offer on this home from an owner occupant. It has been on the market for several months, so I don't know when that'll happen, but I think it will happen. Would it be valuable to you if you got an offer from an investor? Sure, yeah, whatever. They're very guarded. They don't understand what I'm talking about. Usually, the agent just comes right at them. I say, okay, well, this offer is going to be all cash, no contingencies. We can do a 7-day closing, or just close at the time of your seller's choosing. There's no seller concessions. It's going to be a straightforward, quick, clean, easy offer. Is that something that would be valuable to your client? And they're like, yeah, I bet it's a low ball. Sure, it is a low ball. You're going to think it's an insulting offer from an investor. I totally get that. Would it be valuable to you though? Would it be valuable to the seller if we wrote that up? Wouldn't the seller like to see that offer? Wouldn't it be more valuable to have an offer in hand than no offer at all? And the listing agent may say no. They may have their identity tied to the listing price on the home. And for us to make a low offer is actually an affront to that identity. People will do more to act in congruence with their identity than anything else. It's the strongest driving force in all of human behavior. So I'm gonna ask them if that's valuable to them, and I'm gonna have to guide them because they're gonna say no, we don't want a lowball offer. Well, have you had any other offers on the property? No, we haven't any. Have you had a lot of showings? Yeah, there've been a ton of showings. If we wrote an offer, we'd give it several days to expire. You could go talk to all the people who have done showings and see if anyone who's done a showing would like to write an offer. Would that be valuable? And at that point, they're like, what's going on here? You're supposed to be negotiating with me here or something. Well, we are negotiating. I am literally coaching them on how to be a better agent as part of our negotiation. And if I give them a low offer and they don't want it, what are they going to do with that offer when they receive it? What's going to happen to that offer?
They might say no,
show it
but
to
they
their
wanna-
clients. Sorry,
What was that?
Go ahead.
I was gonna
Reagan,
say
you're up.
they might say no, but they'll want to talk more. They'll want to see if you can work something out.
That's possible, yeah. If I'm giving them an offer that they do not want, it's very likely that they're gonna submarine that offer. They're gonna present it to their client and say, here's this garbage offer from an investor. You'd be an idiot to take it, but I am legally obligated to present it to you. It's not very likely that offer is going to be accepted.
I've got told that they wouldn't even present it to their clients.
They are obligated to do so. They're legally obligated to do so.
That's
However,
interesting.
sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't, especially if they promise that client that the sell price is 200 and you're presenting an offer for 160. Like, they might just file that thing away in a drawer and pretend they never received it, which is a terrible behavior, but it is common. Now, if I work with them and I negotiate with them and I discover value and I show them how this low offer could be really valuable to them, and maybe even they could leverage it into a better offer from someone else who's done a showing, what do you think might happen when they present that offer?
You establish motivation on your part,
That's right.
As well as being able to give them tools to use on their behalf. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. We've just done win-win negotiation. How long did that phone call take?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. There's that 1% of your time.
And I think also that, maybe that particular deal doesn't work. Those sellers really need top dollar, for whatever reason, but they'll remember, and then they'll call back, a month or a year later and say, hey, I do have this one that might be good for an investor.
Well, now Elaine's playing the infinite game over there. when they present that offer, they might say, you know what, this is an offer from an investor. It's a lower offer, but it's rock solid. It's all cash, no contingencies. You know, I've worked with this guy before. He always closes, and that's just kind of how investor offers work. They almost always come in lower than owner occupant offers. They're making a business here. So, you know, I'll be honest, he actually gave this to me almost as a gift so we could potentially leverage this into offers from other people who've toured the home. So I'm going to reach out to every person who's toured the home here in the last several months and say, hey, we have an offer. Would you like to bring an offer? And if we still don't get any offers, I think we might want to consider it. Have we created value for the seller?
Yeah.
Have we created value for the listing agent?
Yes.
Have we created value for ourselves and our buyer?
Yes.
Has anyone lost anything as a result of our negotiation? Has anyone lost?
No.
This is what win-win negotiation looks like. It's not hard. It doesn't take very long. It just takes a little bit of love and consideration. That's all it takes. I hope we're kind of hammered on the same concept over and over again. We're looking at it from different angles. I hope people can see how this could be a life-changing principle. I hope that that Reagan, you don't shrink away from negotiation the next opportunity it presents itself, and see how your dominant feminine energy can serve this person like masculine energy cannot, and help you crush that negotiation and create value for everybody. What's a black swan? So a black swan is defined as something that is not known when the negotiation starts. But once it is discovered, it changes everything. This is such a life-changing concept that it's the name of our real estate company, Black Swan Real Estate. The black swan is the one thing. It's the thing that you are driving at. In our third alternative exercise, when did we discover the black swan?
When it turned out that the guy was, you know, hating his job and feeling really frustrated, and it was about something else entirely different than the window.
That's right. And there were two black swans there, weren't there? There was the first one that this guy hates his job. And then there was the second one that he just hated being in a little office. It takes some digging to uncover the black swans. And most people, they don't just put their cards on the table at the outset of the negotiation, and they often don't even know what the black swan is. We purchase homes from people who have passed away very often, for example. And we typically buy these homes as is. They've got, you know, the roof is shot, they're full of junk, they are severely distressed properties. And there's a negotiation that takes place on price. But price is really just an excuse to not have to confront this very, very painful situation of a relative that's passed away. Price has nothing to do with it. Price is just a reason to not have to go into that house again and not have to think about how painful it was that this person passed away unexpectedly. And until we can lead someone to cope with that trauma and understand that if they dispositioned this property, they wouldn't have to deal with this anymore. It wouldn't have to be lurking there in the back of their mind, and remind them of their weakness and their inability to confront this person and how they never said goodbye. Until we lead them to realize that selling this home is what will heal them, this home will sit here being a blight on the neighborhood and deteriorating for years. We have bought homes that have sat vacant for 5 or 10 years because people have simply never been served. And they say it's price, but it really has nothing to do with price. Does that make sense? The black swan is that unknown underlying motivation that you discover through the negotiation process. And once you discover it, everything changes. It's impossible to predict in advance. It's often very surprising when it happens. And it is usually accompanied by extreme emotion when it happens. We're told that as real estate agents or real estate investors or whatever, that we need to be professional in representing our clients. And as Minnesotans, we're very stoic and cold and distant people. Is there anything unprofessional about loving your client with appropriate boundaries? I would challenge you and say that unless you love your clients, truly love your clients, as a fiduciary, you are legally bound to put their needs ahead of yours. But unless you serve them and nurture their spiritual growth and help them grow in the way they need to grow in order to meet their needs, you are failing to serve your client. If you are remaining cold and distant and using logic instead of emotion to lead and serve your clients and grow your relationships and create rapport and develop influence, you're selling yourself short. You're selling them short. Now, you have to have boundaries. You probably don't want to loan your clients money or go babysit their children or something like that. But we as realtors have the unique privilege to serve people at the greatest intersections of their entire life. When you're getting married, when you're having kids, when you're an empty nester and the kids are going on to college, and ultimately when people pass away. These are sensitive times in people's lives when they make long-term decisions about what the nature of humanity is. And I hope that they walk away from their interaction with you knowing in the depths of their soul that we live in a loving, caring universe where people treat each other with love and respect and not judgment. And I think it could be very financially advantageous for you to do so as well. So all of negotiation is just a tireless search for value and ultimately a search for black swans. For the underlying motivation for the hating the place you work here, but really just hating the small office. In our third alternative exercise, we did not just help this person avoid getting into some kind of bickering dispute with their coworker or some sort of problem with their boss that could potentially result in them not getting a raise or losing their job altogether. We helped this person realize that they didn't hate their job, the place where they were 8 or 10 hours per day. How big of an impact have we had on this person's life? And their next job, they may realize that they actually hate living or working in small spaces. And they may say, you know what, I need to go work on a factory floor, or I need to go be a park ranger or something like that. I'm in the wrong career altogether because every place I work, I'm going to be sitting in a small office. We have helped that person discover something critical to their happiness as a human being. And it took us a couple of minutes. We have permanently changed the trajectory of their life. And when you discover black swans, when you help other people discover their black swans, that's the order of magnitude on which you can serve people. All right, moving on. Let's get real. We've talked a lot of kind of high concept-y stuff here, right? And I lead with that because I would hate to give you some mechanics, some tactics, some tools without the spiritual beliefs that go behind them. It would be very sad to me if people employed these tactics to play the finite game. I hope that makes sense why these spiritual points are so critical to me. But let's get real. You came to this talk to learn how to be a better negotiator. And I hope that this change in worldview by itself will help you become a better negotiator. But there's a lot of mechanics that can do a lot of good as well. So first, let's talk about the 2 words that change everything. And those words are, that's right. That's right. When I sit down at a meeting with someone, I'll have a pen and paper pretty often, and I'll jot down at the top of the piece of paper, people do not remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. What is the thing that Tom did that started the problem-solving process in our third alternative exercise? Tom, what'd you do? What'd you do?
Offered a solution.
Before you offered a solution, what did you do?
Gave a pain point for me. And
Before that even, what was the very first thing you did? The thing that helped me understand that I'm in a safe place. The thing I was so grateful for that not even my wife did.
Listen.
yeah,
You listen and you acknowledged my feelings. You validated my feelings. We as human beings, all we need is validation for our feelings. That's all anybody ever wants. Getting the intended outcome is actually less important than someone understanding what your desire is and the underlying reasons for it. That's how powerful the need is to be heard and understood. Feminine energy in particular needs to be heard and understood. Masculine energy cares more about just getting its outcome and to heck with you. I don't really care if you get me. I just want what I want. But all humans, they need validation. And there are two words that propel you to validation more than any other. That's right. Not you're right, or I think you're right, or people believe you're right, or who cares what anyone else thinks? What matters is what I feel. And the only two words I want to hear out of your mouth when I am pouring myself out for you are, that's right. That's right. Until you say that's right at least 100 times per day, I think that you need to revisit this concept. Write it on the back of your hand. Sit through a conversation once and give it a try. Do nothing but mirroring and validation and see what happens. I think you will be blown away by the outcome. Who'd like to do a brief role play with me?
I'm up for the challenge.
You're up for the challenge? You want to turn on your,
Got it.
yeah.
Not having a good hair day, just so you know.
Hey, whatever. I'm there with you. Jenny, would you consider yourself to be a consummate therapist and empath?
No. Oh, yes, I guess. What do
That's
you
feminine energy talking right there. I hate it.
want? Sorry.
I love feminine energy. I revere feminine energy, but you got to have some confidence.
Okay, confidence.
You're going to be a consummate therapist today.
Yes.
You know how you're going to do it?
I'm going to listen and
You're
wait.
going to listen. You're going to validate, and you only have to say two words to do it. You have to say that's right.
That's right.
So I want you to just say that's right over and over and over and over again. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I'm a friend of yours, and we're in common company. Everyone always asks, how are you doing? Right. And we don't really care how anyone's doing, right? We're just kind of waiting for our turn to speak. We're playing the usual social mores of our culture. And
That's right.
That's right. That's right. So let's simulate an encounter here. Hey Jenny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And you?
I'm okay. You know, sometimes I don't know how anybody feels.
Interesting.
You know, the election's coming up, and it seems like Trump isn't doing so well in the polls.
That could be it.
Don't overthink this.
Okay.
There's two words that validate people's emotions. This is going to sound absurd.
That's right.
This is going to sound truly absurd, but it is this simple. It is this simple. So
Okay.
I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, you know, with this election coming up.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, my family, they love Trump and I love Trump, but it seems like no one else loves him, and I don't understand why. Don't overthink this.
I want to say that's right, but I want to say I can hear you.
Sure.
But that's right.
I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you can hear. I care about me.
That's right.
Until we take the ego out of our empathy, we cannot serve other people. And I'm being really harsh with you, and I hope that does not offend your feminine energy. But I want everyone to hear, to understand that when you serve other people, you have to take yourself out of it. People do not care about what you say. They care about how you make them feel. And the only way they want to feel is right, to feel validated. And until you validate them in the core of their soul, you cannot influence them. You have to demonstrate that you don't care what you think or what you feel. All you care about is me. It's the only thing that matters. So let's try this again. You know, I love Trump and my family loves Trump, but there's a lot of people out there who don't seem to love him.
That's right.
I don't get it. I mean, he's making America great again. Like he's put the Chinese in their place, and he's told the Black Lives Matter people what they should be thinking and feeling. And it makes me feel so right, but makes them feel so wrong. And I'm not sure what to feel about that.
That's right.
And when I sit down at the dinner table with my family and we talk about it, we know this country's headed in the right direction. And I don't understand why everyone else thinks it's headed in the wrong direction.
That's right.
I mean, you know, if I'm honest, you know, things haven't been so great. You know, my dad, he's out of work, and I mean, he used to be a coal miner, and you know, I thought Trump was going to bring back the coal jobs, and there haven't been any coal jobs, and I don't understand why, but I still feel I feel validated. I feel like he gets me.
That's right.
And you know, my family, we've lived in poverty our whole darn lives, and you know, Trump, he's this rich guy, and I feel like if I just support him, I'm going to be rich like him one of these days too.
That's right.
And one of these days, I'm gonna make it big. I'm gonna go to New York. I'm gonna get out of the coal mines, and I'm gonna live a better life than my father ever did.
That's right.
And for some reason, I don't know why, it just doesn't feel right to me, actually. Now that I talk through it, it doesn't feel right. My family, we've lived our whole lives in poverty, and this guy, he doesn't really get us. He just tells us what we want to hear, doesn't he?
That's right.
So what am I supposed to do about that? Because he says he loves us and cares about us, but everything that he does says that he doesn't. And now I don't know who I'm supposed to vote for. And I know this is like a politics thing. I'm not supposed to talk about this. And, you know, I'm probably, you know, really offending you. And I'm sorry about that. But I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. If I vote for Trump, I feel like that's like voting for the thing I should do, even though it's the thing I shouldn't do.
That's right.
You know, I guess it's pretty stupid for me to vote for Trump, isn't it? He hasn't actually done a damn thing for us. He's just told us what we want to hear. I don't know why I feel like you just get me, you understand me in a way that he doesn't. Maybe I should vote for you for president.
That's right.
Thank you so much. You have no idea what this has meant to me to get a chance to talk to you and pour my heart out. I know, I promise I'm not usually like this. And I'll tell you what, can I take you out to lunch? I'm sorry that you had to kind of shoulder this burden, and I'm not a crazy person, and politics doesn't usually rule my life, but man, the election's coming up in a week and it's like the only thing on my mind. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Does this seem like fiction to you?
No, it's very hard to say that's right. And how many times that I wanted to go, instead of that's right, you could be right. Which
only 7% of your communication is verbal.
Right.
Only 7% of your communication is verbal.
So
there's a big difference between that's right and that's right. So I challenge you to do an exercise called mirroring. I'm sure everyone here has heard of mirroring before. And all you do is you just kind of repeat the last couple of words of the sentence that someone said. When we were doing the job interview exercise with Reagan, I don't know if you noticed that, but I was mirroring her. She said, like, I want more money. And I said, more money? And she said, yeah, I feel like I have more value to offer. I said, more value? She said, yeah, I think that we could do something purple. And I said, purple? I said it for like 10 statements in a row, maybe not 10, maybe 7. And it sounds ludicrous. It sounds like someone's going to catch on to what you're doing and say, you're not actually talking to me, are you? But remember, people do not care about you. They are not thinking about your thoughts and feelings and things you're saying. They are only thinking about themselves. And as soon as you take the ego out of your coaching, your therapy, your negotiation, your love, you're going to be able to serve people in a way that you've never been able to before. And this seems like a completely ludicrous mechanic, but I dare you to try it. I dare you to say, that's right, 100 times per day. And after a while, people are going to say, you know, whenever I'm around Nick, I just feel like me. I feel free to say whatever I feel. I feel a sense of profound intimacy, and I never feel judged. And all you have to say is, that's right. And I'm really hammering on this, maybe harder than I should, but resist the urge to overthink this. Resist the urge to inject your own thoughts and feelings. Do not solve their problem. They could care less about a solution. They need empathy. They need connection. They need love. They need consideration. They need validation. And the two words that validate them the most are, that's right. This isn't, I think you're right. This isn't, Donald Trump thinks you're right. This is the universe that thinks you're right. This is the universal, that's right. Does anyone have any questions about this? So this is our first kind of mechanic we're talking about here. And I don't want you to think this is some cheap trick that doesn't actually work in real life.
I understand it would work. It's very hard not to interject or
It is.
Wow, where are you coming from?
That's right. That's right. But let me ask you this. My mixed feelings about the election and my coal miner family, are those feelings wrong? There's no
They're
such
your
thing as invalid
feelings.
feelings. That's right.
Yeah.
They're my feelings. All feelings are right.
Mhm.
And to deny the righteousness of feelings is to forfeit your power. The only way to change feelings is to first validate them and understand them. And once I have revealed all of my black swans, once I have talked through this in my own mind, that's your opportunity to dig deeper. And there's only one word you need for that. What word is that?
That's right. Oh, one word. Somebody else's turn.
Shoot, I don't know the word either.
What's the word that Tom used over and over again? What, Tom?
Value?
No. How do we dig deeper? What's the one word that's the key to someone's heart?
Listen.
Yes is worthless.
Listen.
Why? Why is the key to someone's heart? We need to validate them. We need to show them that we love them and we care about them. And then we need to find out why. In all likelihood, this person has never asked themselves that question. But until we've shown them that we love and we care about them, they're not going to tell us. Tom had to dig 4 times before I opened up, and he had to validate my emotions every single time. Tom is an absolute rock star at empathy. It's something that's just second nature to him. I did not have to teach him anything. He just loves and cares about people so much that he does it by instinct. But it's a rare instinct indeed. Most people, Jenny, you're exactly right. It is very hard to do this. Who here has something that they want to talk about that they feel really excited about or interested in? We're gonna practice mirroring. Is there anyone, Lavina? You wanna talk for a little bit?
Yeah, I can.
Sure. What's something that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I'll talk about how I can't see myself, but that's fine.
You can't see yourself?
Yeah. Am I on? Is my video on?
You're
I
on.
can't
Yep.
confirm I'm on. Okay, great. Well, I guess I can talk about how excited but also scared and nervous I am about real estate investing.
Nervous?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've spent a few years reading different books and listening to different presentations, and I still feel like I still don't feel ready at times.
Ready?
Yeah, you know, I work part-time, so I haven't saved up as much cash as I think I would need to in order to get started. And so I feel like if I was going to go to the bank, that they would just laugh me out.
You think they would laugh you out?
Yes. Exactly. So I felt like I didn't want to face that kind of humiliation. So I've just sort of like stayed at home and kept reading books and checking out webinars.
Webinars?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, so I'm like trying to gain steam by, you know, connecting with community, seeing other people do it, trying to look for stories that are like my own so that I can start to feel like I can take some steps.
What kind of steps?
I think, let's see. I guess some steps would be, well, I guess actually learning to evaluate deals. I guess that would be probably the first real step, and then later worrying about how to come up with the money. And it's interesting, I still hesitate to even look for them because it's almost like I'm afraid of succeeding, which is crazy.
Afraid?
Yeah. Yeah, which is crazy because there are so many hard things that I've done, but this is like the realm where I feel really intimidated, and I don't know why. Maybe because
Intimidate. I'm hearing these same words over and over again. Why?
I guess because it's so unfamiliar from my regular work in medicine.
But you've done webinars, you've read books.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, I joined communities. It's like I'm really good at observing everyone else teach.
I think you're very observant.
Well, thank you very much. But yeah, so that's like the whole sort of crux of it.
All right. Thank you very much, Lavina.
Okay.
So what did I do in this exercise?
I felt like you were really interested in who I was. Like, I felt like, wow, I was like captivating you with all of my like inner turmoil.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Awesome.
This isn't about me. This is about you. And mirroring,
Nick,
and that's right.
I love that over time, you have escalated your "that's right" to "that's exactly right."
I mix it up just a little bit. People just need validation, and it does not take a lot of fancy techniques or fancy words or fancy thinking to do it. That's right, mirroring, why. I promise you, this could go on for hours. I challenge you to go mirror someone for like an entire dinner date, evening or something like that, and you will be profoundly insulted at how effective it is. In fact, take it one step further. So what we just practiced was mirroring, and if we were able to be together physically, again, only 7% of communication is verbal. So I was only mirroring Lavina verbally, which is very ineffective. And it seems actually a little trite or something in this Zoom, communication. But if we were in real life, I would be mirroring, the way she touches her face. I would be mirroring her posture. If I can, I would mirror her breathing. By the way, for a fun exercise, try mirroring your intimate partner in their breathing patterns the next time you're intimate with them. That will change the way you approach intimacy with your partner forever. The vast majority of communication is nonverbal, and so we are going to be mirroring them in our nonverbal communication. And you can engage in what's called pacing and leading. So while you are affirming the way someone feels by saying that's right, and digging deeper into their thoughts and feelings by mirroring them verbally, you might touch your face when they touch their face. And when they pick up a glass of water, you pick up a glass of water. And when they pick up a fork, you pick up a fork. The glass of water could be empty. They will never notice. You don't eat anything when you pick up your fork. They will never notice. And you do this for about 10 minutes. And now you've paced them effectively. Their mirror neurons are firing in sync with yours. And consciously, they have no clue what's going on. But subconsciously, you two are linked. And this is a little bit of a parlor trick, but you can then pick up your glass of water, and they will pick up their glass of water. And you can pick up your fork, and then they will pick up your fork. And then you can ask them, why are you holding a fork? And they'll look down and go, I don't know. I'm not sure why I picked up this fork. And you can pivot yourself to the side, and they'll pivot to the side, and you can cross your legs, and they'll cross their legs. And this is power. This is rapport below the conscious level. And when you have validated someone by using that's right, by using mirroring, by pacing and leading, you've created a conduit for influence. And when you've done that, when you've created rapport at the deepest level, the person who has the most certainty will end up influencing the other person. I'll say that again. Once you have created rapport, the person with the most certainty will end up influencing the other person. And I'm telling you this because you have to be careful. You may not want to build rapport with someone who has a lot more certainty than you do, Reagan or Jenny. You want to be careful about who you create rapport with. It's a two-way street. But if you are leading this relationship and you walk into that opportunity to influence them with absolute certainty about how to create value, you will never cease to create value and to get the outcome that you're looking for. And it's going to be very satisfying to your feminine energy because you're going to do it by creating a deep, rich relationship that's full of feminine power, because it's seeking first to understand and to listen, and the outcomes will follow themselves. That's something that masculine energy struggles with a lot more. Women totally get this exercise and go out and do it. Men are like, yeah, sure, whatever. Seems like a cheap parlor trick. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell them how it is. It doesn't work. This is how you create rapport. I'm going to tell you something else. If you were to do this and you didn't actually love that person, what do you think your outcome would be? If you were to mirror them and pace them and lead them and affirm their feelings, but you don't actually care, what would be the outcome?
Manipulation.
Manipulation. What is manipulation? What does manipulation feel like? What does it smell like?
It smells like cheating.
That's right. It's infidelity. It's emotional infidelity, which can be instigated in moments. We've talked about how you can create intimacy in a matter of moments. You can betray intimacy just as quickly, and there is nothing that hurts more than betrayal. Authenticity is the currency of our day. It is so rare for people to encounter authentic people. People say what you think they want to hear. People present fake lives on social media. Why is Donald Trump president of the United States? Who cares about your political beliefs, by the way? That's not a consideration here. Why did he win the election? There's a lot to learn there.
People
He
don't want
Because he
created
says
a
exactly
rapport.
what's on his mind at all times with, it's just 100% authentic. Exactly what he thinks is what he says.
There is no doubt. You have no doubt about how Donald Trump really thinks and feels. You know his authentic self. And let me ask you this. When Donald Trump invites you into his story, who is the hero of that story? Is it him or is it you? Make America great again.
You by bending to his will.
That's exactly right. What was Hillary Clinton's slogan? What was her campaign slogan? I'm with her.
Oh,
Who's the hero in the Hillary Clinton campaign?
You by affiliation to her.
Maybe, but I would argue that she was the hero of her story. Whereas you are the hero of Donald Trump's story, and you may hate that story, but you still know exactly how he feels. He is totally authentic, and you are the hero of the story. So you engage, you develop rapport, you allow influence to occur. And who is the more certain person in your influence relationship with Donald Trump?
He is.
He is. If he just says whatever it is that he thinks or feels or wants you to think or feel loud enough and frequently enough, you will eventually come to believe it. And if you have a rapport relationship, he will influence you. If Donald Trump can become president of the United States, I promise you, my friend, you can negotiate a real estate deal. And you can use the exact same tools for good. It is not more complicated than this. This is truly as simple as it. Go ahead.
I really appreciate understanding this through this lens, because it like explains why some people are so magnetic. So it's a combination of like, I guess maybe they're kind of shifting the story between being about you as the hero and themselves as the hero, and they have certainty.
That's exactly right. So since I'm a person who believes in these principles, let me ask you something. Why on God's green earth would I get together with a group of people and teach them how to negotiate? Why would I give away my best tricks? Wouldn't it be better for me to just kind of keep that for myself?
I don't know. I like really want to hang out with you more now because you have so many cool things to say and share.
That's exactly right. And is this about me or is it about you? These interactions today?
So far, it's felt completely about us, like the
That's
audience
right.
or me.
That's right.
But
The
hopefully
best.
come to
Go
a
ahead, Jen.
solution. Hopefully you could come to a solution faster, even if you understood what the dance was, that you could solve your problem faster. How's that?
Absolutely. My approach to negotiation is so different from most people's that there's a pretty significant onboarding process that's required in order for me to do business with them. And if I went around teaching everyone how I negotiated, I wonder if that would help me do more deals and negotiate more successfully. And if I told a story where I was not the hero of that story, where I was the guide, and I helped the people around me be more successful, do you think they might want to do business with me in the future? The best way to build rapport is to teach and to speak. And once you develop a grasp of these, basic concepts to mirror, to build rapport, to create a conduit for influence, the best communication to run through that conduit is teaching, is education, is growth, is shared experience. And as long as you make sure that you are not the hero in that story, people will be drawn to you and they'll want to do business with you. This past weekend, some investors flew out and they're investing a tremendous sum of money with us because of these speaking opportunities, because of our desire to help other people grow. And I never in a million years would have predicted that investment. Now I ask for it. I say, hey, if you'd like to invest with us, feel free to reach out. But it's not a sales pitch. I'm building rapport. I'm creating influence. I'm creating that conduit over which influence can travel. And let me ask you this, between you and me, which of us is more certain?
Well, your vibe is gentle, but you're more firm. Like I find myself looking to you for what are we doing next?
That's right. Yep. So all this is on purpose. Just like how you can mirror someone on purpose, you can affirm their feelings on purpose. It has to be authentic. It cannot be fake. The human brain, mirror neurons, sniff out inauthenticity in a second, and it is repugnant. So you actually have to love people and care about people in order for these techniques to work. But if they do, you'll be very successful with them. And I practice what I preach in everything that I do, all the way down to me doing this seminar today. So I hope that it affirms that these techniques do indeed work, and I hope that these techniques are working with you today, because I do love and care about you, and so does my wife, and so does my team, and we want to serve you, and we want to do business with you. But that process of selling you, of one day doing business with you, that should be an afterthought. The relationship comes first. The rapport comes first. All right, moving on. Mirror neurons, pretty interesting. I've mentioned these a few times. I don't really care what your religious beliefs are. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe that I was created, and that God has a plan for me, and the purpose of my life is to follow that plan. And it's an interesting, scientific observation that unless you believe your path is guided, unless you believe that you have purpose in life, it is almost impossible biochemically to be happy. So whatever your spiritual beliefs are, I encourage you to ponder that for a second. And mirror neurons are the closest thing to God I feel like I see in the human anatomy. So how is it that human beings can do these wonderful things that they do? How is it that we can learn to tie our shoes, to play basketball, to drive a car? How does that process work? It works through mirror neurons. So when I see another person doing something like tying their shoes, subconsciously, my motor cortex is firing. and it is rehearsing the thing that they are doing. And if you watch someone else do something many times, and then you go do it for the first time, you'll be able to mimic their behavior almost perfectly. Haven't you ever noticed that? That you can see someone, let's say, go skiing, and then you strap on some skis and put on some ski poles and you go right down the mountain. Now, you may fall because your motor cortex isn't quite calibrated correctly, but no one has to ever teach you to, push the poles down like this and move the skis like this. You just watch someone else do it, and then you do it. And it's not just your motor cortex. When someone else feels a feeling, you feel that feeling. Your mirror neurons are observing what your fellow human is experiencing, and you in turn experience it yourself. And whether you believe in God or evolution, it makes sense either way, because if you see a friend who's getting eaten by a tiger, you're going to feel terrible about that. Why? Because you might get eaten by a tiger, and you really don't want to feel that feeling. And when your fellow man is sad or depressed, you feel sad or depressed. When your fellow man is in a peak state and excited and wants to project gratitude and love and consideration, you feel those exact same feelings. It is impossible to shut those off unless you're a sociopath. Mirror neurons are a superpower, and these exercises that we're talking about here, leading and pacing, mirroring and affirming people's feelings, this is mastering your mirror neurons. So in a scientific study, they had a bunch of random people off the street split into two groups, and one group practiced shooting free throws for a half hour, and the other group watched NBA athletes and others shoot free throws and then rehearse shooting a free throw in their mind, but they never touched a basketball. Which group do you think had better outcomes? Someone's got to speak up. This is an easy one.
It was the one that rehearsed it in their head.
Right. Now, intuitively, you'd think it's the people who practiced, who picked up a basketball and shot some free throws, right? But when you see someone else do something perfectly and then rehearse that in your mind, it is exercising your motor cortex, myelinating those neurons just as effectively as actually picking up a ball and doing it yourself. Now, the first couple of shots might be way off, but then as you get it dialed in, your motor cortex is going to fire in perfect harmony with what has already been rehearsed over and over and over again, the perfect free throw shot. And it's important for you to understand that your mirror neurons, when you are around other people, they control everything that you do. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you're having a dispute with your spouse, and they are really upset about something that is totally irrational, and you are fuming mad that they are upset about this silly thing. How do you feel in that moment? Let's say you're driving in the car together to a faraway place while you're feeling these feelings. How do you feel?
Mad?
You feel mad? Absolutely. Absolutely you do, because it's totally irrational that they should feel this way. It's not righteous at all, their feelings. How else do you feel? What other feelings do you have?
Unheard.
Unheard. That's right. Their feelings differ from yours, and you have temporarily lost rapport, and you feel this painful disconnect. And feminine energy would say that that it feels unheard. Masculine energy would probably say that it feels controlled, that you're supposed to feel this certain way, and that's total BS because they shouldn't feel this way at all. But what is belied by that feeling? What other feeling do you have there? When your partner is very sad about this thing that you don't think they should be sad about, or your partner is feeling very anxious about this thing that they shouldn't feel anxious about, or your partner is feeling irate about this thing that they shouldn't be feeling irate about, how do you feel in that moment?
About powerless.
Powerless, absolutely. Yep, that's very strong feminine energy right there.
I would feel contemptuous.
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second there, Reagan?
Sorry, I would feel like contempt.
Contempt. Yep. And the reason you feel that way is because you are feeling their feeling and you don't think that's right. Because your motor neurons are firing. I'm sorry, your mirror neurons are firing and you're feeling sad or anxious because they are feeling sad and anxious. And that makes you upset that you're feeling these invalid feelings.
Oh.
And when you dig down deep, you'll see that is exactly true, but most people never realize that. They're not upset that their partner feels this way. They're upset that their partner has made them feel this way. And I would encourage you to take full responsibility for the way your partner feels in your life, the way your intimate partner feels in their life, because the way they feel is the way you're going to feel. And to live in denial of that is to live a very sad life indeed. And it doesn't matter why they feel the way they feel. All feelings are valid. And until you acknowledge their feelings and empathize with their feelings and help lead the relationship, help lead them out of those bad feelings, you are going to feel those feelings. It is impossible for you to not feel those feelings. When we were doing the third alternative exercise with Tom, how did he feel when I was pouring my heart out? You could see him wince visibly on the camera. And this is just an act. In real life, it's so much more intense. So understand the profound impact that motor neurons have on your life and how they control your feelings, how the feelings of the people around you control your feelings. Now, this is something that's very uncomfortable for people who are dominant masculine energy. People who are dominant feminine energy, they understand this intuitively. I'm going to mute you for a second there, Reagan. I've gotten a little bit of feedback there. But people who are dominant masculine energy tend to live in denial of this. Hey, I'm going to feel the way I feel. Heck with how you feel, which is a defensive mechanism, because as a person who's dominant masculine energy, it feels very controlling to have someone else dictate how I feel. But that is how human beings have been created or wired. We're all in this together, and we cannot separate ourselves from anyone else. So I encourage you to lean into that fact and do not live in denial. And if you do that, people will feel drawn to you. You will have a magnetic pull for everyone in your orbit. And they won't know why. They'll just say, you know, when I'm around that person, I just feel good. I feel accepted. I feel, I don't know, like me. I feel like the most me, you know, that more me than when I'm by myself somehow. They won't be able to articulate it very well. But what's happening biochemically under the covers there is they're feeling all the good hormones and none of the bad hormones, because all their feelings are being totally validated. And all these things are totally disconnected from your outcomes. Like, you can get the outcome you want, but if you get it for the wrong reasons, you will not be happy. As crazy as that sounds. I think we've all gone through a negotiation where we got what we wanted, but not in the right way, and we were upset about it. Or we can not get what we want and still feel good about it. What matters more? Objective reality that it's 72 degrees in here, or subjective reality that it feels hot or cold?
Subjective.
That's right. And once you embrace the truth of that statement, it can totally change all of your interactions with other people. And I don't want to get too deep here, but if the most important thing in life is to be a person of influence, who's the most important person in the whole world that you need to build influence with?
Yourself.
You're damn right. Most people never stop to think about building influence with themselves, getting in touch with their own feelings and how they really feel. They need a buddy to help them out, which I think is a beautiful quirk of how we've been created. It takes mirror neurons in order for us to see our own emotional state reflected in another person who really truly loves and cares for us, in order for us to untangle all the crazy thoughts and feelings bouncing around in our brain. But all these same techniques, strangely, will work on yourself as well. We're not going to dive into that. That's a whole other course. We're talking about negotiation today. Let's talk for a second about the chemistry of rapport. There's a lot of things I could say about this, but we're trying to cram a lot in a short amount of time. When you are in relationship with someone, when you are in conversation with someone, when you are building rapport with someone, there's two primary chemicals that are at work here. One is dopamine and the other is serotonin, or I'm sorry, is oxytocin. So dopamine is the feel-good hormone. And the reason why we get a hit of dopamine when we build rapport with someone, the reason why you're hopefully getting a hit of dopamine right now when you feel like you're building rapport with myself and other people in this room, is because in our caveman brain, we know that if we build relationship with people, when a tiger comes out of the woods, we will stand shoulder to shoulder and we will fight against that tiger. And human beings are very weak physical creatures. It is our social bonds that make us strong. And we get a hit of oxytocin because oxytocin is the bonding hormone that makes us feel close to people. And when we can feel oxytocin flowing, when we can feel it being reciprocated, it makes us feel good. When a baby is born, a man gets the biggest hit of oxytocin of his life, and you just start spontaneously crying. You feel so good. And we live in a very interesting time, because when you scroll through your social media feed, you get a hit of dopamine when you like someone's post or comment on their post. They've hooked up people to biomedical sensors to see what your hormonal cocktail looks like when you are browsing social media, or when someone likes your post or comments on your post. But you don't get a hit of oxytocin because there's no physical connection. There's no physical touch. We're not in our own physical proximity. I don't know if anyone studied Zoom yet, but it's certainly a diluted experience from face-to-face communication. What else is chemically characterized by dopamine in the absence of oxytocin? What other experiences are characterized by that chemical cocktail?
Cocaine.
Cocaine, that's exactly right. Anything else? Probably have a couple of doctors here, so feel free to risk taking, absolutely. Anyone else have some thoughts on what gives you a hit of dopamine without a hit of oxytocin?
Laughter.
You know, I don't know about laughter. I bet you get some oxytocin from laughter, actually, but I'm sure you get a lot of dopamine from laughter, absolutely. Psychosis, I didn't know that one, but I believe it.
Love.
So love is going to be the essence of oxytocin. So pornography, alcohol, drugs of all kinds, the chemical characterization of addiction is dopamine in the absence of oxytocin. How do people try to rehab from drug and alcohol abuse? What do those programs look like?
So 12-step peer support programs.
That's right. And why do those programs work from a hormonal perspective? Spiritual community. That's exactly right. Connection with others and a higher power. And again, your spiritual beliefs are yours. I don't care what those beliefs are, and call it God or evolution. But we human beings are wired to have to love and serve others in order to be happy. And that is characterized by oxytocin. And when you have too much dopamine and not enough oxytocin, you go into a 12-step program where you literally get together in a room of people and talk about your relationship with God and your relationship with these people. You build rapport, you build intimacy, and that oxytocin is the hormonal cure for that addiction. What we are doing today is we are talking about, at a biochemical level, the most effective ways to generate oxytocin. When you say, that's right, you create a hit of oxytocin. When you mirror someone, you create a hit of oxytocin. We're not talking about, anything terribly ethereal here. We are talking about very real hormonal signals that are sent when you engage in a real authentic relationship with someone. And if someone detects that you're inauthentic, that oxytocin supply shuts off. And oxytocin is the cure for addiction. We live in an addicted culture today. Everyone is addicted. I'm addicted to food. People are addicted to caffeine, drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever your choice is. Pornography, by the way, is a fascinating one because, again, this is where you should be experiencing the highest levels of oxytocin in your life, and you get nothing, but you get a ton of dopamine. And I don't have anything to say about the social commentary on it, just that it makes people supremely unfulfilled. All of these things do. When you lead with value, when you lead with understanding, when you validate people, when you say that's right, when you mirror people, you are potentially serving them in ways you could never possibly guess. People can only feel fulfilled when they feel connected. And when you generate real connection with other people, you make them feel happy and fulfilled in ways that you will never see because you are permanently altering their biochemistry. And maybe they're feeling a little bit sad because they scrolled through their social media feed for 6 hours today and didn't get any oxytocin out of it. And the 5 minutes today that they have an honest to God conversation with you and feel a connection to you and feel rapport and intimacy is the one thing that they needed to feel good about themselves when they went to bed at night. These are what the stakes are in negotiation. And again, we are negotiating at all times. In every time we create rapport, we are creating a conduit for influence, which is the essence of negotiation. So that's a little bit about the chemistry of rapport. So if you haven't figured it out yet, I almost find the word negotiate to be insulting. We do not negotiate. We lead, we meet people's needs, we serve, we build rapport, we give, and then ultimately somewhere at the end we get. It has been a rare thing for me indeed to do these things and to not get. I promise you that if you give, you will get. And if you don't think that's true, give it a try and see what your outcomes are. Let's be painfully deliberate about this. So Jenny, you did not like saying that's right over and over again. So go to 36questionsinlove.com and just memorize some of these questions. If you could invite anyone in the world to dinner, who would it be? Would you like to be famous? In what way? Before making a telephone call, do you ever rehearse what you're going to say? I do on every single phone call. Absolutely, it'd be crazy not to. What would constitute a perfect day for you? This is one of my favorite questions. So let's say you're getting to know someone, or actually, let's be really, I think we've been a little bit abstract for a while here. So let's say I'm trying to lease one of our rental properties to someone. I'm going to say, hi, I'm Nick Stageberg. Thanks for coming out. I'd love to show you the home. Before we go inside, I'd love to know, what would a perfect home look like to you? Could someone tell me what a perfect home would look like to them?
I hate carpet.
You hate carpet.
I want floors that I can clean very easily because I have a dog and I have a 6-month-old whose face is all over the floor all the time.
A 6-month-old?
6-month-old.
Wow. And a dog?
Mm-hmm. 3 of them.
3 of them?
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Well, we could go on mirroring you here for a while, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a tour of this home, and at every possible opportunity, I'm going to call back to the illustration you made of exactly the thing that you're looking for. And in that moment, I've asked you to engage in a visual exercise. Tell me what a perfect home looks like to you. You probably close your eyes for a second and you visualize the perfect home. Instantly, your biochemistry changes because we're engaging in this intimate exercise together, and you feel perfectly heard and understood. A picture is worth 1,000 words, even if it's a picture in your own mind. And by the way, you are telling me everything that I need to know in order to sell this home to you. Now, you might call this manipulation. And again, if it's done inauthentically, it is. But if you truly love someone and want to serve them, and you think this is the home for them, just ask them to tell you what you need to tell them to make them fall in love with this home. And they will. And they'll do it with a big smile on their face. And they're going to feel really good, because it is so rare for someone to feel heard and understood in our society. It seems like it's pedantic, like you're pandering to them when you engage in these techniques. but they are so sadly rare that people will pour themselves out in an instant for you when you just give it a try. So 36 questions in love.com. Go through those questions and give them a try. So new school sales, trying to make sure we get through everything real quick here. So old school sales would give you a yes script, and you'd need to get this person primed to say the word yes. That's worthless. And we're not here to sell them a product. We're here to help them fall in love. And once we've done that, once we've created rapport, no selling should need to take place. So who wants to do a role play here? Anyone? I hope you've seen that the people who are doing the role play are getting a lot more out of this. Elizabeth,
I'll do it because I'm terrified.
Terrified?
Yes.
Why are you terrified?
Well, like Lavina, I'm a pathologist. I'm not a real estate person, and I'm a terrible negotiator. So anyway, I'm finding this very helpful and interesting. And
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So let's say you walk into a golf store. I don't know anything about golf, so it's a great example. And
my husband loves golf.
Well, there you go. And I'm a commission-based salesperson. What would be like one of the worst things I could say to you when you walk into a golf store if I want to sell you something?
Are you a good golfer? Because I suck.
You have all these negative words. Language is power. You seem like a very beautiful person to me, Elizabeth. I could say something like, could I help you find something? Or what would you like to buy today? We run away from these salespeople who want to sell us something, right? Why is that? Why are these people so repulsive to us? What quality do they exude that we find
inauthenticity?
Inauthenticity,
right? I feel
inauthenticity.
Skeptical because I know they're after a commission and I have no interest in who I am.
That's right. If authenticity is the currency of our day, inauthenticity is the worst kind of thing that we experience on a day-to-day basis. You don't actually care about me. You just want to make a commission. In fact, if I greeted you and said, hey, how can I make a commission today? You might actually find that appealing. Hey, someone who's transparent, like Donald Trump style golf sales here, right? How crazy is that? That to be kind of superficially polite is insulting. That's because it is. To really love people or to really serve people, you need to love them, you need to care about them, and you need to do it sincerely. So let's try this again. You walk into my golf store. What would be a great way that I could build rapport? Let's go back to our 36 questions to fall in love exercise.
What would a perfect golf club look like to you?
We're going to go a little bit deeper than that, but you're on the right track.
Okay.
I would say, hey, Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
That's right.
No, you're a real customer here in this situation.
Okay.
I'm the person selling you some golf clubs. So,
gotcha.
Hey, Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. You're looking for some golf clubs or something today?
Yeah, as a gift for my husband, and yeah.
So, do you play golf at all, or is it just your husband?
I'm a complete novice, but we have a great time when I go out there. I laugh at myself a lot.
So as an aside, right about now, you're starting to get suspicious. Like you're feeling like I'm probably an inauthentic salesperson. And right now is when I need to grab you before you say, could you just leave me alone? I'm just here to browse. So I might say, man, I love golfing. I love going out with the family. It's just such a beautiful time together. Winston Churchill, he said that golf is the best way to spoil a good walk. I couldn't feel more the same way myself. Has your husband ever hit a hole in one?
He has. He has
really?
hit one hole in one. Yeah.
And were you there?
Ball. No, this was before we met. But
what does a perfect golf day look like for you?
Sunshine and lots of laughter and
you know, if I hit one good shot, I'm happy.
So what do you need to make a better shot? Or what does your husband need to make a better shot?
You know what he really wants is a putting green in our backyard, but we have too many redwoods and it'll just destroy the putting green. And so we can't do it. And I wish I could do that for him.
You know, I actually know a guy who specializes in these custom putting greens. Would it be valuable for me to put you in touch with him?
Yeah, you can try. Yeah, we got an estimate and the guy was so nice. And he said, you know what, I could sell you something, but I'm telling you, you guys, it's just not going to work in your backyard.
Well,
so,
you know, my guy's pretty creative. Let's take a look at it. Sure.
All right, let's take a look.
So maybe you came in for a golf club. You know, I don't know how much a golf club costs, $100, $1,000, but maybe I'm going to end up selling you a service that you never expected that you wanted, just because I took a couple of seconds to empathize with you and to connect with you and to show you that I care about you. And that allows you to open up and say what it is that you really want, what you really need. And what people want, what they need are often different things, and they often don't even know. So I could parlay this exercise for a while, but I want to move on. In my opinion, this is what a skilled sales encounter looks like. And anything less than it is inauthenticity. I feel like I have a relationship with Costco, and I don't know why. Just something about the way they do business. I feel like they care about me and they do the right thing, and so I shop at Costco. When I go to another grocery store, I feel like I have no relationship with them, and that is insulting to me. It is an affront to my humanity that I have no relationship with Walmart. And whoever it is that you need to influence in your life, if you do not lead with rapport, if you try to skip straight to the end outcome, you are lost. You will not succeed. Or if you do, they may hate you for it. And that's not the infinite game. So any questions about this little new school sales exercise that we just ran through? Does anyone think that this is just some mechanic that this, you know, might get you a sale or two, but doesn't really serve people? Good, I'm glad to hear. Moving on. So I encourage you to get good at talking on the phone. I have this headset in 16 to 20 hours a day. Yes, that means I sleep with it on. Make the phone call your gladiatorial arena. Most people don't talk on the phone very much these days. They text message. It's not a very effective means of communication. I text a whole lot as well, but speaking on the phone is a really, really powerful tool. Why is speaking on the phone so powerful? I'm going to need someone to say something.
You get the emotional tones, you get the nonverbal stuff, and the exchange of like those little noises that say, I hear you.
That's exactly right. You get all the nonverbal communicate, or the tone, at least. You don't get the gestures and the body language, which is, you know, 50% of your communication, but you at least get some kind of intonation. It's also a very efficient way to communicate. You're able to communicate a lot more information in a very short period of time, and it eliminates opportunities for misunderstanding and ambiguity. Information makes people think. Emotion makes people act. I don't know a lot of text messages that I've ever sent that inspire people to emotional heights, but I've had some phone calls that have changed people's lives. So get good at the phone. Get a headset, get comfortable on it, make it your home field. As like a real estate salesperson, you should be talking on the phone every day. You should be doing 10, 20, 30 outbound calls per day. You should be getting inbound calls constantly. If you're a real estate investor, I hope that you're doing the same thing and you're building and maintaining relationships with your service providers, looking for opportunities to acquire. Talking on the phone is extraordinarily important. How do you start a phone call? It's almost a little bit rude to call people today, which is why it's such a superpower to make phone calls. People disappreciate being called despite the fact that it's so powerful. So how do you start this phone call? Because it's very easy to get off on the wrong foot.
Hey, did I catch you at a good time?
That's a good start. And you may have gotten the hint from our slide here. What
Yeah.
would be a better way to start that phone call?
Ask how they're doing.
Ask how they're doing. I could fish
Is
for this for a while, so I'm gonna.
time?
What was that, Reagan?
Is this a bad time?
Is it a bad time? Ding, 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 winner. Why is it a bad time better than did I catch you at a good time?
They are free to reschedule you, and because they're maybe going to, they will give you another time.
Absolutely. What's the worst thing that could happen to us? What's the worst outcome that could possibly happen as a result of us making an unsolicited phone call to someone?
They have to call you back.
They have to call you back? That's pretty good.
Or
I
you
think that's
call them
actually a
back.
pretty good outcome. I think that's a pretty good outcome too. What would be a worse outcome than that?
They hang up on you.
They hang up on you. And what's going to happen the next time you call them?
They
They're
hang
going
up
to
on
hang
you.
up on you again.
Or they just won't take your call at all. If we're going to play the infinite game on the telephone, and I hope you can see that these concepts have universal application, we're going to walk into this phone call not to accomplish an objective, but to build rapport. And the first thing we can do to build rapport on a phone call is give them permission to get off the phone call, because we want to be able to call this person over and over and over again and have them answer. And if we do not respect their time and give them an opportunity to get off the phone immediately, they are not going to answer the phone the next time the phone rings. And we have lost that connection. It's a devastating outcome. What's the second worst thing that can happen when we're on an outbound call? What's the second worst thing that can happen?
Rejection.
Rejection. Yep. I would say rejection would be pretty far down the list, actually. I actually really like rejection. What would be something worse than rejection? What's a common thing for you to encounter on an outbound call that is so frustrating?
It being ignored on the second ring. Yeah.
So being ignored on the call. So you call me up and you just launch right in and say, hey, I need a bid for this, or would you like to talk about selling your home, or do you know someone who wants to sell their home? The second worst thing that can happen to us beyond them not taking our call in the future would be them being on the phone but not engaged and wasting your time and deafening your impact and your rapport in future engagements. When you are online with someone, you want them to be totally at full attention. And if they aren't, you are training them to not listen to you. You are building anti-rapport. Does that make sense? So we want to give them an opportunity to get off the phone instantly if it's a bad time. And that way, when they answer the phone in the future, so people who I call often, they might even cut me off. They'll pick up the phone and they'll say, yes, Nick, this is a good time. They will immediately affirm that I care about them and that I respect their time and that they are answering the phone anyway. And I will actually train them not to answer the phone if it's a bad time, because it's kind of a negative interaction if you reach someone at a bad time and they know that the first thing I'm going to ask them is whether or not it's a bad time. I'm going to give them an immediate out. And let's say they say, we can talk at 3 o'clock today. Is that a good outcome or a bad outcome?
I think it's good. You have a
Is that
time.
a better
I-
outcome or a worse outcome than if they just talk to me on the phone right now?
If they talk to you while you're on the phone right now and they're busy, then you don't get their full attention.
That's exactly right. By agreeing to do a call at a later time, already there's a social contract that's been created here consciously and subconsciously that they're going to be receptive to whatever it is that you're calling them about, because you first respected their time and then they agreed to talk at a later time when they would be better able to focus. When someone does that, I typically send them a calendar block. So they're going to get like a reminder that pops up on their phone, 10 minutes beforehand. And then I give them a call at the exact time that we agreed we would speak, and they answer the call and they're at full attention. And I get a better outcome than if they just spoke when I first called them. They've had some time to think about it. What is Nick calling me about? I'm kind of curious. And the best thing that can happen is when you are a person who always leads with love and selflessness and care and consideration and abundance, people are excited when their phone rings. One of our investors, they've invested with us over and over and over again. Just about the only time I ever call them is when I have an opportunity for them. And they sound like a kid on Christmas morning when they pick up the phone. They're like, "Hey, Nick, what's going on? Do you have a new deal for me?" And I'm like, "I sure do." And do you think it's a hard sales process when they are excited to pick up the phone when they see my number light up their phone? Absolutely not. So the first thing you want to do is you want to ask someone, did I catch you at a bad time? There's also this fallacy out there that yes scripts work. They do not. So who would like to do an exercise with me? Who have we not called on so far? Fitz 11 Pro Max, would you like to do an exercise?
Clayton, that would be you.
Or Lisa?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right. So we're going to pretend that I am the worst human being. I am a telemarketer who is trying to solicit you for money.
Okay.
So we're gonna go through that right now, and I'm gonna raise some money from you. So ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Lisa, this is Nick with a despicable political candidate. Did I catch you at a good time?
Not really, actually. I'm kind of in a hurry right now.
I'm sorry to hear that. This is just going to take a few seconds. Do you think that it's a good thing that this thing that you like is good?
Sure.
And is that something that you feel strongly about?
Yep.
And is this something that you're interested in supporting?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to transfer you over to my assistant, and they're going to collect your billing information so you can donate right now. So that's a classic sales yes script. It's a very weak script, right? And let's try this again. I actually tried to sanitize it a little bit there, and it didn't work very well. So I'm gonna be a little bit more real on this next one here. So let's try this again. We're gonna do a no script. So ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Nick Stageberg with the George Bush for President fundraising organization. Did I catch you at a bad time?
No, I'm
Awesome.
available.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that Bill Clinton is a good president?
No.
Do you think that he represents the values that America represents?
No, not necessarily.
Do you think he's leading our country in the right direction?
No, for the
And
most
are you
part.
going to just sit around and do nothing while he gets reelected president?
I mean, no.
Well, you have an opportunity right here and right now to make a financial contribution to this campaign. Are you going to do that?
I guess so.
All right, I'm going to transfer you to my assistant so you can give him your credit card information. So that's a yes script versus a no script. So if you hook two people up to an fMRI and scan their brain up to a functional MRI and see what lights up the human brain, when someone says the word yes, there's very little activity. When someone says the word no, it lights up with activity. And in fact, when you call someone and say, did I catch you at a bad time? You'll notice that the conversation skips a beat. They'll pick up their phone, and if they haven't heard you call them before, they'll say, no, this is a good time. Whereas if you say, did I catch you at a good time? They'll say, sure. Yes is acquiescence. Yes is the absence of an answer. No decides. No is a fork in the road. No is you giving them control of the conversation and getting their permission for it to continue. And if you don't do that, if you do not give them permission early and often in your conversation to get off the phone or for the conversation to advance, you might get a yes from them, but are they actually going to pay when you transfer them to your administrative assistants to collect the money? Are they actually going to sign the contract? Are they going to do the thing that you want them to do? No. You want to get to know as early and as often as possible. Earlier, someone said that rejection is like one of the worst outcomes of a call. Absolutely not. Rejection is the start of yes. Yes is worthless. No decides. Get to know, do not fear no, learn to love no, and start and end your calls with no. If you do that, you will be phenomenally more successful. You can A/B test these sales scripts. I mean, people have done it. And the no script is 10 times more effective. It raises 10 times more dollars. It has 10 times more people that actually give their credit card number than the yes script. Get comfortable with it, and people will love you and respect you for it. Get to know, respect, and honor their decision. Okay, sorry to hear that. I don't want to take up any more of your time. You have a good day. I send out a lot of direct mail, and I get a lot of calls from people who say, put me on your do not call list. And you know what I say? I say, well, we really love to serve people. And if the best way that we can serve you is to not hear from us again, I totally respect that. So I'm going to go ahead and take you off our list. But if in the future we can serve you, feel free to reach out to us because you're not going to hear from us. I promise you, they have never heard that script before when they've said, take me off your list, please. And I've actually gotten calls months and years later from these people. They hang on to our direct mail piece that sits in a drawer somewhere. And they're like, you know, that's the guy who wasn't a jerk when I called him, even though I was kind of a jerk to him. And we have converted leads who have said no. No is your friend. Learn to love it. Any questions about the no script? It's a little uncomfortable at first, but once you get comfortable with it, it changes the game. All right. So let's talk about call. You're going to be making calls, really powerful calls, calls that will make you wealthy, that will build relationships, that will change your life and impact the lives of people around you. What are your pro tips for these calls? What can you do to make these calls as successful as possible? The first thing you need to do is shut up and get them talking. I hope that you have learned some tools in our seminar so far that can help you get them talking. What are some of those tools? When I was doing a role play with Lavina, what % of the talking did I do on that call?
Like maybe 10.
Maybe 10, probably less than that, like 5%, yeah. So what technique was that got her talking?
Reflection.
Mirroring, that's exactly right. And how did Lavina feel about it? How did she feel at the end of that interaction?
She said important.
She felt important. That's exactly right. That's how almost everyone is going to characterize how they feel when you successfully mirror them. They're going to feel like they are the center of the universe or the center of the conversation, and you're so interested in them, so curious about them. Is this a person who wants to get off the call? They're feeling that oxytocin flowing. They want more of it. Sign me up. I don't have enough oxytocin in my life. I spent 6 hours on social media today. Ask me more questions. I want to pour my heart out to you. Get them talking. Would it be easy for me to sell something to Lavina after she has poured out her heart to me for a couple of minutes?
Probably yes.
Without realizing it, she's told me exactly what she wants to hear. So let's say I want to sell her a house, and I would say, you know, Lavina, I'm going to be honest with you. The only way to start is to start. Would you like to start today? I know you feel insecure and nervous that this is a big step and it's risky, and that's because it is. But the only way to start is to start. And if you don't start today, you're probably not going to start tomorrow. If it's taken you this long, you've gone to this many seminars and you still haven't taken action, you're probably not going to. So you need to either be honest with yourself that this just isn't something that's a good fit for you. And if that's the case, great. I'm glad that I have helped you come to that reality so you can move on to the next thing that is going to fulfill you and make you successful. Or I can help you get started today. What do you think about that? This is a pitch. This is kind of an aggressive sell, but it's honest. right? And if I was misleading her in some way, she would pick up on that. If this was inauthentic, she would pick up on that. Now, if I tried to just come over the top of her, I didn't listen, I didn't seek first to understand, I didn't try to lead with curiosity, and I sat in judgment that she's just a person who doesn't know how to take action, I would not be able to serve her. Because Lavina, I think you are a person who knows how to take action. You just need the right guide. You're the hero of this story. Do these things take a long time to do? Is this an hour-long call for you to make?
No.
No. Making an honest-to-God connection with someone has nothing to do with duration. It does have a lot to do with cadence, by the way, and it is critical that you follow up with someone. Whenever I'm on a phone call, I'm on my headset, I'm at a computer, I'm taking notes on my call with them, so that when I follow up with Lavina in a month and say, Lavina, we agreed on our last call that you're going to have 30 days, and at the end of that 30 days, you were going to poop or get off the pot. What decision is it? And if I don't have those notes available, and if I have forgotten this life-changing conversation that we've had, that's going to be inauthenticity. And that's going to be just appalling to her. And it could like wound her in a very permanent way. So you have to be careful with these techniques and you have to be mindful of it. But I hope that if you embrace these techniques, you never have to sell anyone anything ever again. And if the thing that you are selling is an honest to goodness virtue, if I was selling snake oil, it would be pretty tough for me to leverage these techniques in a sincere way, because I would know in the core of my being that's not helping them to use these techniques. But I help people buy investment properties and achieve financial freedom and get a higher return on their capital. So I know that I'm serving people, and it's very easy for me to be sincere in saying, here's the next step. It also makes it really fun to do calls. Like when you're doing your typical outbound call time and you have several to-dos, several conversations that you have to make, you tend to put it off and you tend to sell it short, and you tend to do 3 calls when you should be doing 10 or 20. But when you lead with value and you sincerely care about people, like call time is kind of my favorite time of day. I get to check in with my friends and see if I can serve them. And everybody is happy to hear from me. No one picks up the phone and says, Nick, why are you bugging me? I look back at my notes and say, hey, we chatted a month ago and here's where we were at. Has your situation changed? What can I do to serve you? Nothing today? When would be a good time for me to check back in with you? And if they say never, you might try saying, would you be offended if I followed up with you in a month? Would you be offended if I followed up with you at this time? You establish that contract, and you also make it abundant. It's a no script, right? So you are giving them the opportunity to say for sure, do not call me. And if they say, yeah, no, I wouldn't be offended, you can call me. So much more powerful than the yes script of, I'm going to follow up with you at this time. Okay, no. We're going to draw a line in the sand and we're going to say what our next actionable steps are. Does that make sense to everyone? So outbound calls are far more powerful than inbound calls. You've got your computer, your headset, you're in your bunker. If you're a Keller Williams person, you're familiar with that concept. You want to be the person that initiates the communication. Donald Trump, one of his negotiation tactics is to never accept an inbound call. So he'll get an inbound call, let it go to voicemail or whatever, and then call them back 15 minutes later when they're in the middle of something else. So he's catching them off guard. I don't really like that. I think that's a scarcity mindset or a manipulation, but you do have a tremendous home field advantage when you're making outbound calls, and you have all of your tools in front of you, and all the contacts that you need to make. You have a list of the people that you're kind of expecting to hear from, and when you follow up with them, they almost always appreciate it, because I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Everybody else hates outbound calls too, and when you call them, you are leading the relationship and you are alleviating their responsibility to make that outbound call that they're dreading. So don't fall prey to this notion that people don't want to hear from you. If you really love and serve people when you call them, they're going to be excited to hear from you. In our professions, we have the unique privilege to make lifelong friendships where we never stop reminding people of the value of our relationship. And we can't do that, by the way, if it doesn't have real value. What an amazing life to lead. Statistically speaking, a real estate agent only survives their first year about 10% of the time. 9 out of 10 agents do not make it through their first year, and a similar percentage survive the first economic downturn. However, if you make it through 7 years as a licensed agent, if you make it through the first downturn, the first down cycle, statistically speaking, you keep your license for the rest of your life. You never burn out. I think that's a beautiful thing, because it takes a good 5 or 7 years to really build a book of business as a real estate agent, and to get good at reminding people of the value of your relationship. So that person you helped buy a home when they first got married, it takes about 5 or 7 years before they've had a couple of kids and they're ready to buy a larger home. And it takes another 5 or 7 years before they're ready to buy that dream house. And then it takes another 5 or 7 years before they're empty nesters who are maybe looking to downsize. But if you stay in the game and you never stop reminding people of the value of your friendship, you'll never want for business in anything. Kill them with kindness. So there was a great question earlier. What if you're negotiating with someone who's a bad person? I always assume the best in someone, and I give them ample opportunity to disappoint me early and often in our relationship. I deliberately do not put up any guards. All of my success in life has come about as a result of building relationships and then leveraging those relationships over and over and over and over again. And if someone is someone that, if they're the kind of person I can't really trust with more responsibility, doing a larger deal with them, I need to figure that out when I'm doing a smaller deal with them. I need to give them the opportunity to fail to return my call when they said they would. I need to give them the opportunity to fudge the numbers when they're putting together a pro forma, or cut some corners when we're doing an inspection or due diligence together, or give them an opportunity to go around me as a real estate agent. I need to give people huge opportunities to do the wrong thing, so that I know these are people who will always do the right thing. And there's a lot of people out there who I think are kind of on the fence. They think, if someone is a good person, I'm going to be a good person. But if they're a bad person, I'm going to take everything I can from that relationship, because that's how the world works. And I find that when I set the example and I lead the relationship and I kill them with kindness, it is very rare indeed for me to not have that reciprocated back. There are a lot of big drivers in the human identity, or in the human psyche, but conforming your actions to your identity is the most powerful force. So when I'm talking to them on the phone, I'm going to say, yeah, I love doing business with other great agents who are really good negotiators and know how to really make their clients happy. What have I done by making that statement?
Identified them with great negotiating skills and care for their clients.
That's exactly right. And that may not be how they actually think about themselves, but in the context of their relationship with me, that's how they're going to think about themselves. And even if they don't necessarily think that's them, that's how they're going to behave around me. And they're going to feel really good about it. And they might even figure out that it's a really profitable and fulfilling way to live life. So I always assume the best in people. If people do disappoint me, I don't do business with them again. There's a long list of people that I know are takers, not givers. And they may be very nice, but they're not people that I can successfully do business with, because they don't understand the infinite game. But I've figured that out early and often in my relationship with them before they can really do damage to me or the people that I represent. And then finally, disarm people with transparency. People are just so baffled by this. They're truly baffled by it. So let's say I'm talking to a listing agent and I'm telling them, okay, my client wants this, 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 and this. And they'll say, why are you telling me this? That's literally what they will say. And I'll say, so that I can get them what they want. And they're like, well, we can do that, I guess. Like they don't know what to do, but just the mere act of putting my cards on the table and saying what we want gets us what we want. And I make it clear to them that I want to know what their client wants. I think that it's really baffling to me, because I'll call a lot of listing agents, for example, when we're writing an offer and say, what would an ideal closing date be for your client? What would an ideal offer look like for your client? What other offers have you received? Would an all cash, no contingencies offer be valuable to them? And there's a lot of coaching out there that says that you shouldn't reveal anything about what your client wants. How the heck are you supposed to get what your client wants if you don't tell people? Now, you need to ask for their permission before revealing any of those details. I always ask for permission from my clients, but a lot of agents just kind of clam up and say, just write an offer. I can't tell you anything. That's illegal. Well, that's not true at all. And they think they're going to reveal something that will somehow put their client at a disadvantage. And that is true. They could do that. But on the whole, if they tell me what their client wants and I tell them what my client wants, the odds of us getting a win-win deal go up radically. They go up exponentially. And when you lead with transparency, it is so disarming to people that they often just kind of say, well, I haven't seen this show before. I guess we're just going to see where this goes. Yeah, here's what my client wants. I've never told another agent what my client wants. What happens next? What do we do now? And it's almost always a joyful encounter. Agents after the transaction will say, Nick, I've never had a transaction like this before. I've never encountered an agent who does business like this before. I'm really looking forward to the next opportunity for us to do business together. Do you think that's a good thing, that there's a whole army of agents out there who want to do business with me? Do you think that represents the best interests of my clients? Do you think that helps me get the best outcomes for my clients? I think it does. And all you need to do is lead with transparency. So we've got about 20 minutes left. There's a bunch of other stuff we can go through here. So we already talked about yes and no. Gosh, there's a lot of things we could talk about. Again, this was like a 2-day seminar before. Does anyone have any questions that have not been answered yet that they'd like us to focus on with the time that we have left? I can just keep kind of blasting through these if you want. It's up to you.
I think I'm kind of curious to hear like a script of how you would go through a call with someone, trying to build that rapport. Like for us, we're new agents, and, like getting through these calls has just been really interesting for me. I, just don't know when to like plug information, or if I should be doing that at all in the initial call, as far as like, hey, I'm an agent, I can help you, or are these calls just supposed to be, like rapport building, how have you been, and just kind of establishing a base. It's just a very frustrating, I guess, experience that I've gone through with trying to work out those kinks.
Frustrating?
Yeah. So like when I called my sister, and she's always my go-to for, feedback on anything. And I had tweaked one of the scripts in the books, to be more towards like how I would speak and that kind of thing. And I called my sister, and she just was kind of like, Lisa, it was a good job, but honestly, like she made the point that you did with, you should try to like respect people's time more and just get to the point. Like, don't do a lot of the
these are short calls,
like, hey, how are you, how are your kids, and all that stuff. She's like, just like, start the call and right away be like, hey, Clayton and I are starting something new and we could really use your help. This is what I'm calling about, and just laying it all out on the table, as opposed to wasting a lot of time with the hi, how are yous, and that kind of thing. But then it's, does that, I'm just having a hard time, I guess, reconciling that with making sure that you're actually building a genuine, rapport, because I do care. But at the same time, I do respect their time. So I just don't know how to find a balance, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Short calls. Be totally unafraid to ask for what you want. Put all your cards on the table and do it quickly and respect their time. People respect that. When you beat around the bush, it's just irritating. Mm-hmm. Hey, why are you calling? So Jesse Itzler, he's a billionaire entrepreneur. He tries to send out 3 gratitude text messages per day. If it works for him at his level, I think it can work for us at our level. I think gratitude is the best premise for any communication. Hey, sister, I just want to tell you that I appreciate you. It's not something that I feel like I've said in my life, and it's something I want to say. And then also, we're I recently got my license, and if you or someone you know might want to buy or sell a home, I would really appreciate it if you could send them my way. That's it. That's the whole call. You can get a lot more touches in that way, and you'll make it clear that you can talk more if they want, but you also have to be considerate of your own time, and you can't make a lot of calls if they're long calls. People love that appreciation, that gratitude, and when you are asking for what you want promptly and transparently, it is not manipulative. People just love that it's so transparent. Now, you don't want to be always asking them for something every time you call, but you should never be afraid to say what you want. So in this presentation here, how many times have I asked for the business?
I mean, directly, I'm having a hard time pinpointing a time that you directly asked for the business.
That's right. And yet somehow you probably have a very, very strong notion that I want to do business with you and of the services that I offer, right? What are some of the services that I offer?
Investment opportunities, management, property management, and honestly, just sales, I think, in general.
That's exactly right. That's all there is to this. Lavina said, what business? What do you mean, Lavina?
I was just joking because I've heard most of this call except for the first, I think, 10 minutes. And I don't know that I could even tell you what business you're in other than I kind of know from other sources. I'm saying just from the call.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you want to be constantly reminding people that you are in the business, that you're in the real estate business, and you want to help people who need to buy or sell their home. And you can help give them a free assessment of what their home is worth. There's no cost or obligation to anyone reaching out to you. Do you know anyone who might appreciate a call from me? That's all there is to it. You are either top of mind or you are nothing. If when someone thinks of, they're at lunch with a friend and their friend says, yeah, I'm thinking about selling their house, and the person that you know doesn't say, oh, a good friend of mine, Lisa Fitzpatrick, she's a real estate agent. Would you like it if she gave you a call? If that does not happen, you are lost. And so all you need to do is constantly remind people that you are in the business and never be afraid to ask for the business. You should ask for the business every time you engage with someone. And, we're having coffee, we're having lunch, and gosh, it was so awesome to catch up with you today. We've spent a half hour just kind of talking, catching up. I am a licensed real estate agent. I just recently got started here. Do you know anyone who would be interested in buying or selling their home? No? Okay. Well, if you encounter anyone, feel free to reach out to me or give my number to them or vice versa. I would love to serve them any way I can. That's it. That was like a 15-second pitch. It's going to take a lot of touches. It takes about 7 touches to reach someone, is what most marketing people tell you. The first 6 times, they don't even remember. And if there's no emotion behind it, they almost never will. So like I send out a lot of direct mail. I need to send someone a piece of mail every month for at least 6 months before they ever call me. And then we do outbound calling where we call and say, after several months, say, hey, did you get our piece of mail? That's a call that people don't hang up on. You need to be totally unafraid to ask for the business. Don't waste time doing it. So you specifically asked for like a script or a role play. Have I provided that, or do you want to do like a quick role play here? Or?
Yeah. So I think I'm struggling most with contacts, like these initial contacts, right? Like with people that I haven't spoken to since high school or, whatever, like just reaching out of the blue. And it's almost like I feel guilty.
It's clear that you feel guilty and they can smell it.
Yeah. And I don't know how to work around that. So I think that's what
you have to sell yourself. You have to influence yourself before you can influence anyone else, before you have any hope of influencing someone else. Do you have value to offer the world?
Absolutely.
There it is. There's your call. Absolutely. Whatever you felt in that moment, that is what you lead with. You are never ashamed to offer your value to the universe. And if you are, the universe will find it insulting. But when you are totally confident in the value that you have to give, no one is going to disappreciate getting that phone call from you. No one.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Is that helpful to you?
Yeah, it does. I think I mean, I'm a very confident person. I just struggle with balancing, I think, my confidence and like my empathy. I don't know if that even makes sense, but
That is the perfect balance between masculine and feminine energy, is confidence and empathy. And it's a balance that we all have to walk. I'm more of a dominant masculine energy person, and it's very easy for me to bulldoze people and to just kind of get into this like manic talking thing. And it's hard for me to just shut up and listen. And I need to constantly tamp that down. And that's why I teach, is because otherwise I forget this stuff. And I hope today you've seen me doing a lot of listening. It's easier in person, but my default inclination is to just be a steamroller, and it does not serve me well. It can turn people off in a second because it's clear that I don't care about them. I care about whatever it is that I have to say or sell. And as a person who's dominant feminine energy, you're almost always going to be, more skewed towards empathy and not confidence. And that's not going to serve you well either. Is it valuable to you in any aspect of your life for someone to lead you without confidence?
no.
When your husband or a boss at work or a tour guide on a tour is kind of like, well, this is a pretty cool place. I think you're going to like it a lot. Not a lot of people get to see this place. And, I've actually only been here once. It's such a rare place, but I think it's pretty cool. Does that serve you well?
No, it actually makes me feel unsure.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so that's a feminine energy response. So masculine energy would find it repugnant and would want to take charge. And if I'm a tour guide who says, this place is amazing, it's going to be life-changing, I've actually only been here once before. That's how sacred and off the beaten path this place is. Are you excited about seeing it?
Yeah.
Does that serve you to lead you with confidence?
Yes.
Absolutely, it does. Lisa, you're clearly a beautiful person who has so much value to give. And when you are totally confident in that beauty, you will never fail to bring people value, and they will certainly be excited to hear from you. When you're unconfident, get off the phone. And I practice what I preach here. It's easy for me to not be confident getting up here and talking in front of people. Like, I haven't given this talk in 6 months. Am I going to remember things? Is it going to go okay? Are people going to show up? I've never done this on Zoom before, and this is a pretty intimate person-to-person thing. This could feel totally flat, but it is useless for me to show up with insecurity. I am here to lead, and it is useless to you if I show up with insecurity. So in order to serve you, I must be confident in myself, because if I'm not, you'll smell it and you'll find it insecure or repugnant. You'll be filled with insecurity, being led by unconfident leadership. And so the only way for me to serve you is to have confidence in myself.
Nick, why don't you tell people about what you do before you do calls? Because I think, even as someone that has been married to you for 10 years, I think that you just are this never ending pool of confidence and willing to get on the phone. And that's not true. You have this
right.
very deliberate process that you do before doing these important things. Why don't you talk about that? I know that's been very helpful for me to see that modeled.
That's right. So go to a Tony Robbins seminar, Unleash the Power Within. Virtual's coming up soon. This is something I've done long before I learned from Tony Robbins, just kind of instinctually. But you don't show up in a peak state like this person in front of you. I made this person. This is not the real me. The real you is probably not that great. The you that your creator made you to be, the perfect you, the ultimate you, that's the person that people want. People cry out to God and say, God, I need more time, I need more confidence, I need more, whatever it is. And God shouts back, no, I need more of you. I need the person I made you to be, not this insecure, I don't know if people want to hear. So when I'm getting ready to do calls, I will, so I'm at a stand-up desk right now. I get jumping. I literally, get myself shaken out. I give myself positive affirmations. Abundance flows through me. People love me and I love people. I have so much value to give the universe. I drink a full pot of coffee. I get jacked up, and I don't take that stage unless I'm ready. I don't make that call unless I'm ready. Unless I am riddled with confidence, I am not serving anybody. I'm not serving the person I'm calling. I'm not serving myself by getting on the phone. And I listen to stand-up comedy if I'm in a low state. I played a video game for a couple of minutes before I started today because I was feeling a little bit, I don't know, stressed out or insecure or something like that. I just wanted to distract myself, or I was going to start perseverating on those thoughts before I got going today. So the person that you present yourself to be, that's your choice who that person is, and make sure it's a person that you want to be and that other people want to be around. And this is not something that happens by accident. This is something that happens through rehearsal. This is a careful, considered presence that I try to curate. And anybody who is in the presentation business, in the show business, that does coaching or whatever, they all do the exact same thing. Like Leonardo DiCaprio is not the person that he just happened to be born as. He is the person that he created. So figure out the person who your creator made you to be and make that person reality. So yeah, I mean, I literally ask my team, I listen to motivational stuff when I'm getting ready in the shower in the morning, and I listen to, high energy music, and I literally jump and run around, and I do guided meditation. And if my heart's not going, if I'm not breathing a little bit hard when I get onto that phone call, I'm probably not ready. So hopefully that's helpful to the people here on the call today. I didn't give you a script, but I hope I gave you something a little bit better.
Yep, you did.
All right. Well, I can just talk about a few more points for a few more minutes, or does anyone else have any questions? I love Q&A. Now's your chance.
How do you
By the way.
hold on to, oh, sorry. So how do you build a rapport with somebody but hold on to what you want?
How do you build rapport with somebody but hold on to what you want?
So I build rapport pretty easily, and then I want what the other person wants, and I lose my own goals. And I think that's a reason I keep people away, because it's so easy to fall into wanting what they want and kind of not serving myself.
Yep. And that's definitely a feminine energy thing, no doubt about it. If you do not get what you need, are you going to be more or less empowered to serve people?
Less.
That's right. If you let someone walk all over you, does that serve them, or does that just teach them that they live in a world without boundaries and accountability, and that they can just walk all over everybody?
The latter.
And if you were the first person in their life that gave them honest to God accountability, do you think that might be the best way that you could possibly serve them?
Hell yes.
Hell yes. That's some strong feminine energy right there. It's hard to get feminine energy juiced up about, pounding your chest and that kind of thing. Feminine energy likes to get juiced up about connecting with people and loving them and serving them, and tends to be very self-sacrificial, well past the point of fault. So you are not alone in that situation. It can make negotiation very intimidating. But when you realize that by failing to meet your own needs, you're actually limiting your ability to serve people, you see the real truth. You must be fearless in asking for what you want and telling people what you have to give. And that might be on a phone call, like with what Lisa was doing, or it could be when you're in a heated negotiation and you need to just be constantly asking yourself, am I truly serving this person by allowing this to happen? That's what my recommendation would be anyway.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
I think so. I'm going to sit on this for like a week and think about it, but yes,
Okay.
it's a lot.
Jenny, what did you have a question about?
I was just saying thank you. Great job.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Hey, Nancy.
So, are there any motivational podcasts you recommend?
Yeah, sure. So, mindset work is a really important thing. So I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, so I've gone to a bunch of his events. I recommend doing some Tony Robbins events. I listen to motivational stuff like every morning. So there's several different like YouTube channels that just have like a new motivational thing that they post every day. I don't really do motivational podcasts. I think that's less of a thing, but I have, just like whatever shows up in the YouTube feed that looks interesting that day, like be your best self or live with certainty or whatever it is. But I have, my wife and I together have given Tony Robbins tens of thousands of dollars for all the different events and stuff we've gone to. I think he's the kind of the apex of that coaching, pyramid or whatever. So I literally probably listen to Tony Robbins maybe 5 hours per week on average, in addition to everything else. And I do all of his audiobooks and that sort of thing. But there's plenty of great motivational speakers, like Joe Rogan has lots of really good motivational stuff out there, or Denzel Washington, just really inspirational things to really get your mindset focused on the right thing. It's easy to get fixated on whatever is going wrong in your life or whatever thing is stressing you out. What you focus on expands. There's this stretch of road in West Texas, and there's nothing. It's just flat road and desert. And there's a utility pole, every 200 feet or whatever it is. And there are more utility pole strikes in this stretch of road than anywhere else in the United States. There's only one thing you can hit. If you just let go of the steering wheel, you're probably going to hit nothing for hours. And yet more people hit utility poles on this stretch of road than anywhere else in the country. Why is that?
Because it's the only thing they see.
It's the only thing they see. You curate what you focus on, and what you focus on expands. If I went to work every day and said, gosh, I really hope I don't get fired today, what do you think might happen eventually?
You're bringing that you're going to get fired.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. You're
That's
just
exactly right.
that. Mm-hmm.
I sure hope my spouse doesn't get upset with me today. I sure hope my kids respect me today. What you focus on expands, and what you choose to focus on determines all of your outcomes in life. Yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk is great. Lots of great suggestions there. Mindset is extraordinarily important. You have to have some competence, some skills to go with that. I've tried to give you a lot of mindset and spiritual stuff today, but also a ton of very brass tacks, that's right, mirroring, that kind of thing. But almost everything in life is 80%, psychological, 20% tactics. So I think it's extraordinarily important to focus on those things.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone else have any other questions? I'd love to answer questions. All right. We'll go ahead and wrap up then. I really appreciate everyone coming out today. I hope you learned a lot about negotiation, and maybe we'll get through more of this next time we get together. Lots of great material here, and I hope that you go change someone's life today with the skills that you've learned. Bye.
Thank you.